Okay, we call the meeting to order. This is a of the last week. So we're talking here that we'll not be going into reading the minutes of the last meeting because we're still into the same meeting here. So keep in mind that this is a continuation of the last meeting. This meeting is being recorded. It's even being televised. And I don't think we have an elevation at this time as far as the lake goes. Is that something that we have an approximation of or not?
The website's down. USGS.
And that'll be down. How
I
much?
don't know, I think they're working on the system down there by the Hallmark.
Yeah.
The Bureau is, and having the information when it'll be up and running.
Okay, we don't have any information as far as it looks like it's down about the lowest I've ever seen it for a long time. It's getting down toward the bottom of where we normally haven't gone to. But
$90 since I got back.
okay. Presentation and awards. I don't know anything at this point in time. Is there something that anybody's got? Presentations? Okay. Let's scratch that off then. Approval of the minutes. We will not be going into approval of the minutes because, like I say, that was done last meeting, and this will not have approval until we actually adjourn it. Bids. I don't know of any bids that we went out on. Okay. Resolutions. I do think we have a couple resolutions. Chris, did you have a chance to prepare any of the resolutions that we talked about having ready for this time?
I don't yet have those ready, Chairman. I've spent some time on what it's going to take to get some of the items done. And I think I can certainly go into those now or at the legal counsel report, whichever you prefer.
Let's wait for the legal
Okay.
report then. And I was hoping to have a resolution for the vice chairman, which.
And I'm prepared to discuss what we need to do there with
Okay.
regard to the governance policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think there's one other resolution that we can catch it as we go along here. If you have anything else on that thing, then advisory committee. I think we really don't have an advisory committee put together yet until such time as we actually have a resolution that says we can't form that. So I assume that that's still in the making as well.
That is the other resolution you want, and I was comparing that against the other advisory committee we formed some time back, which was a 3-member, by my recollection. And this, the one you're talking about, has a little broader authority than that one.
Okay.
Chairman, there really isn't a whole lot to hold that up, other than simply there's only so much I can get done in a week when.
Yeah. Can we go ahead and approve it? And do we probably better have something to approve before we approve it, I suppose, huh?
Well, most, generally speaking, with regard to a municipality, the board can take action on the minutes,
Okay.
except where a statute specifies that it must be by written resolution. Appointing this committee does not require a written resolution. Now, the one thing I'd recommend is that we do as much as we can by written resolution,
Okay.
because someone's got to go back, like I did when I had to look back through the records
Sure.
back to 1928 and try to figure out what we did or what our rules.
Picking, when you see who I've picked for different things, I think you'll be very satisfied that they're very qualified people, and they're people that you could probably be very lucky to hire, and they are willing to work for nothing.
So you made the sole decision to do that?
Yes. And so, like I say, we're looking for a 7-person board, and I told you some of the names last week, not all of them, but when you start seeing the qualifications of these people, I think you'll know very well why that they were picked. And they'll be used, some of them on parts of what we do, and some of them parts of other things that we do. But I think that they're very much of an asset to us, and we need to go ahead and get them a little bit of authority to work with us.
I guess my concern is it would seem to me that if you were going to do something like that, that would have been something that would have been advertising. People could have maybe.
No, I'm not going out and trying to find people that I know nothing about. I'm trying to find people that I do know something about, and people that I feel are more than qualified to do the job.
So new people in the community may not be qualified to your specifications.
Most of these people are in the community.
I mean, new people.
Oh, new
There are
people.
new people in the community.
If somebody wants to come forward and tell me who they are and what they are, then yes, we will be considering it. But at this point in time, I want to make sure that people that I get are on board and thinking the same direction we're thinking. We've also signed an agreement with Jim Newhouse to do a special procedures review of the books here. And that'll probably start either tomorrow or the next day. And Kurt, I want to make sure that you understand that this is a direction from the board and that you are to give 100% cooperation to them as well. I mean, no different than a state audit or anything else that you're expected to make sure he has all the information he needs. Good.
Mr. Hansen, last meeting you had said, I believe, if you have the minutes, that that was gonna cost $10,000, but you have $17,000 in the budget and also an asterisk saying that it will be taken from the reserve if it exceeded that. Was that
Yeah.
my understanding? But you told us it was gonna
I
cost
put that number in there
$10,000.
before I talked to him and before I got the information. But I left it there because of the fact that it's possible that it could run over. If it runs over, then we've got enough to cover. He's talking in an area there of 10 to 12. It could very easily run up to 15 or something like that. So that number's there. We don't have to use it. I'm assuming we probably will not use that much of it. But that number is in there regardless.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question on the same subject.
Okay?
I expressed to you my concern about the fact of having Newhouse, auditing Newhouse. And you said to me, well, I didn't know who else to look at, where else to go.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm sure there are others out there that would do that. And you said, well, let me know who they are. And you let it drop at that. I certainly still am unhappy with the fact that a accounting firm is essentially performing an audit on themselves. I think it's a conflict, and therefore I think that I should have been given the opportunity to find one or two others in the community that would do the same thing.
Mhm.
Ron, the amount that we're using them, as far as I know, is nothing more than actually doing our payroll, which
They
is
do our
very,
year end.
huh?
They do our year end.
They do the year end as well. Okay, well, I personally know Newhouse as far as their operations go, and have you come up with some other outfits in town here? That, who would that be?
Larson and Allen will do it.
Larson?
Larson and Allen. But you said that you signed a contract already, and I'm not sure you have the authority to do that.
I think we approved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last meeting, you said that we were doing this to portray ourselves better to the community because the
No,
state
no,
audit wasn't
we
good
want a
enough.
clean slate.
A clean slate.
There you go.
I'm a member of this community, and having an accounting firm audit itself is not a good use of my money. I have a serious problem with that. What if they find nothing? Then our state audit was fine? Are you going to apologize for everybody that you've
No,
accused?
I want to know that it's clean, and I'm not going to point the finger at anybody. I'm not going to
So you're
apologize to
just-
anybody.
because
We're just going to
you
make sure.
Want to know you're wasting $7,000 or $17,000
wasting it.
of my money.
No, we're not wasting.
Because I don't have a problem with how this district operates. Do other taxpayers? I would rather not spend the money.
I realize what you're saying, and that's your privilege to do that, but
Okay, you know what?
it was voted on by the board did approve it, and at this point in time, unless there's something other that is coming up here, then that's probably the way we'll just go ahead and leave it.
Okay, and then as a community, then I'm supposed to feel like this is a clean slate when
This-
your accounting firm
Yeah.
audited itself. I
They're
don't
not,
think
they're not
that's okay.
auditing themselves, there's so much of this that has nothing to do with them. The information that's given to them at the end of the year is pretty much the information, what you feed them. So this is a different system here that's going out in here. They're not auditing themselves, they're not using any part of what they already know to their advantage or disadvantage, but they will be looking at a different area than what the state looks at.
And this is also your own personal accountant
Uh,
for your business as
I
well?
do not use Jim New House myself, but I do have an account there that is going through Clayton Lynch. And so he is one of the people that work out of that office. And hey, that's why I know him, and that's why I trust that we'll be getting a fair audit out of him. But anyway,
Can I say something real quick?
you bet.
The items that they're going over were covered by our audit, this year's audit, which we do have a report. Do you have that copy?
Yeah.
So they are covering the same items. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, they're looking at it from different angles.
So basically, you're paying your buddy $17,000
They're-
to redo a job
The
the
state
state
looks
has
more
already
into the
done.
procedure.
Because that's what it sounds like to me. You
Yeah.
didn't even bid it out to other accounting firms. You're paying your friend, somebody that you know.
No, I'm not paying my friends.
Kind of sounds like it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm giving the business to who I think can do the best job. And
Oh,
that,
I wonder how many other friends that you're gonna give business to in this community instead of bidding it out to other.
well, I think you'll
eligible
find that
people.
there's going to be a lot of bidding that goes on out here that has been given to a lot of friends in the past, and we've probably gotten some very poor bids because of it, but,
It's my turn. Go for
well,
it.
and I can show you some stuff that rattles mine for taking a look at it and seeing what that's happening. But anyway, let's not get in an argument about it, it's a thing of the past. I'm just letting them know that it will be starting in.
So you're gonna
It is
get,
not a thing of the past, sir.
are you,
Not at $17,000 in the budget. You are picking and choosing who you want to pick and choose, whether it is the auditing firm or
I think
or
we've got a
the board or-
majority of the board here that's agreed.
or the board or advisory committee. You are the single source for picking for all of
No,
them.
I'm not.
You said yourself, you are not opening it up to anybody else.
I have brought it up, we've discussed it last meeting, we have chosen, and, I'm sorry.
No, you have, you
This is the same
Okay,
meeting.
let's keep this, we're all starting to talk here, and we're needing to raise our hands if you wanna talk. I wanna keep moving on here, because we're gonna be here until midnight again if we're not careful. So, I'd like to continue here.
so you're not gonna allow me to check with Larson and Allen and see if they'll do the same process?
I can, allow you to check with them.
All right, I will. I'll
We
first thing
won't
in the
have
morning.
we have a duplicate, but yeah, get back to me, in the morning. Why don't you check with them? You and I are not allowed to talk back and forth, but, turn it in, the information into the office here, and then we'll go from there. Yeah,
It might be best to maybe even check with a third one.
I have checked for a number of months trying to find anybody that's willing to do it, and I was
Yeah, right.
surprised. I found one in Wenatchee that was willing to do it, and then I found that Newhouse said he would do it. And so I thought, well, rather than going to Wenatchee and having somebody out of town, and I'm surprised if he's found another one here that's willing to do it, because I checked around, and I checked with a number of different accounting firms, and they said they wanted to go part. So it's not like I just went out here and took the first guy that was a friend and said, hey, come in and do this. I feel that Newhouse is qualified to do it, and I think that he's probably going to give us the best bid on it. Yeah, Judy?
Is Mr. Archer in agreement with you on this issue?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I just kind of wonder, is the contract already signed then with Newhouse?
yes it is.
So, so are we, I mean, is there
Well,
any
we expect him to
reason?
start tomorrow morning. He's not gonna start tomorrow morning.
Well, no, I'm just trying to get clarification, and has it been signed for a steadfast 17,000? That's it?
No, his quote to us was 10 to 12,000.
Okay, well, I'm just kind of wondering, at this point, was that contract signed between last week and this week, or?
It was signed between last week and this week.
All right, fair enough.
well.
Can we have a copy of the contract in the office before he starts? Because it's part of our record keeping.
I'll remind you later.
Just so.
Yeah, I've got a copy.
For the record, I'd just like to add that our accountant, and that's Clayton Lynch, made a comment that caught me kind of by surprise, but I think it has some real truth, and I think it needs to be in part of the record. And that is, his comment was, yeah, this is just kind of a witch hunt. It's just a way for Jim to add money into the coffers of the business.
Well, if Clayton Lynch said that, he's not the Clayton Lynch that I know. But I would be very surprised to hear that come out of his.
He said it.
Well,
You're not the only person that says it.
my guess, he said it in confidence to you, Ron, and I would be embarrassed if he'd said that and then let you say that. I mean, I just do not feel that Clayton Lynch is too much of a professional to do it. Anyway, let me know what you find out on Larson and Allen.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I think so too.
we were talking, trying to get out last week a waiver. I don't know if you had a chance to do that. As far as the people that are receiving a refund, I need to have something. If we tell them they have a refund coming, these are the people that are out here that were not in the district, that were being charged taxes, that paid the taxes, but have a refund coming because they were either not in the district or they're lived in a mobile home, and the mobile home was in an RV, in a park, and the park actually pays the thing and not the mobile home. So there's a number of people. I think the last time I showed you a whole packet of it here. That number amounted to somewhere over $450,000 of refund that's coming back to these people. When you start looking at the budget tonight, I want you to keep that in mind, that we actually have a debt out here of close to $450,000. I'm not saying that we're gonna have everybody run in here and ask for a refund of it, but keep it in mind that we gotta cover our tail on this thing. And so don't think that we can cut that budget and we can put it right back up to where it was and still be all right, because we cannot do that. And if we're gonna have anything left to do any of the working in the dry, we need to save some money for that as well. So keep that in mind as we go along here.
That $17,000 would have been a good start, I believe.
You wanna talk, raise your hand so I can identify you.
Do that.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I'm somewhat surprised by what you're doing here this evening. This meeting is a continuation of the board meeting of last Tuesday, and I mentioned to you before the meeting, I said, well, we're going to complete the agenda tonight, is that not correct? And you said, well, I think we did, and I said, no, we didn't. We didn't get past certain items. But you talk about following Robert's Rules of Order. You have gone back and started through the entire agenda again, and that is inappropriate. We should have continued.
I told you last time I
We
have
should
the
have,
right.
excuse me, I'm not finished. We should have started, picked up where we left off, and completed the meeting, not go back through all this stuff again.
Well, we will before we're done, but that is my prerogative.
No, it isn't your prerogative.
Yes,
You
it is
said-
my prerogative.
You said you were gonna follow Robert's Rules of
Yes,
Order,
and I
and you're
will.
not doing that.
That is.
That is the truth. If you're going to, then do it.
Robert's Rules of Order does not say what order I have to take an agenda.
It doesn't allow you to go back through the entire agenda and repeat discussion on
Ron,
all of the items
When
that
you
were
get to be
brought.
chairman again, you can go
Excuse
ahead.
me, don't be rude, please. It doesn't
Don't be
allow
rude.
you to go back and go through each item again, bringing up each issue again. It allows us to pick up where we left off. That's what Robert says.
Where did we leave off, Ron?
He took us, he threw away the agenda and he took us down through managers' reports. Then we did not have a secretary report, legal counsel, directors or audience questions and comments. We immediately went into an executive session. We came back, acted on the executive session, and then we,
Okay, so your first thing out of your mouth was we threw away the agenda.
Hmm?
That the first thing
he
you said.
threw away the old agenda.
Okay, so
And he worked off of his agenda. which is now taking us down through.
So why are we even looking at the old agenda if we already threw it away?
No, this is
Listen, I'm
his.
following his, I'm just telling you what it
His
is.
agenda.
He threw away
Ron,
the old
Let's
agenda.
go ahead and get your agenda out. Let's get rid-
It's
get rid-
fine. Let's
get
just
rid of it.
let's just follow your agenda. And we're right here. We're not going back.
I have
through
not
this.
turned in 1 minute of agenda since I came here yet. So
What
whatever's
is
typed on
this?
this sheet,
What is this? You gave it to us last week.
Putting this on.
you haven't seen my agenda.
Where are we,
Yeah,
Mr.
but everybody knows it.
I gave you this form,
That's
I
right.
gave you this form,
That's
and
right.
that's for the February meeting. We're still going on the first meeting.
You threw the other one out.
Ron,
Where are we at?
what do you wanna talk about?
I think we pick up, that's what Robert says, we pick up where we left off.
Okay.
We don't discuss and rehash everything we discussed a week ago.
We will be,
Not
So-
tonight.
Why not? We're not even finished the last meeting.
Look, if we'd have still been meeting, we wouldn't have gone back through each line item once
we have
again.
adjourned,
No, we didn't adjourn.
not adjourned, we recessed.
That's right.
We recessed for a week, so
That's right.
now we got new information on a lot of the items, and so we're starting at the top and we're coming back
That's
down
not
through them.
appropriate.
That's not Robert's rule of order.
No, it isn't.
Okay, so let's finish it off then, we'll
Just
come back.
finish, no, finish it off and then we end.
In
And
other words, you're
that's-
thinking that we can't even go back and discuss any items from last week? Well,
Next
We
that's-
shouldn't. That's not appropriate.
That is, yes, it is appropriate. We got a lot of things that we gotta get done here, and
Is it-
Please don't-
Who's accountable? I mean, if we say Robert's rules of order and we don't follow them, is there any accountability?
According to
Anybody?
Mick, we're following Mick's rules of order.
just, you tell me what you wanna talk about. We'll talk about it, and we'll get it out of the way, and then we'll go back and we'll finish up the other information. So
That's
you,
what I'm saying. You don't, at a regular meeting,
Ron,
you don't go back and rehash everything over that you're talking about. You don't do that. Just act like this is one continuous meeting.
it is one continuous.
Okay, treat it that way.
And when I got new knowledge, I'll go ahead and discuss it at the same point. So,
Where are we at?
what do you wanna talk about?
What number?
I'm just telling you, it's inappropriate
What
the way
number are
you
we on,
conduct it.
Ron? I've heard it several times.
Excuse me. I said we ended up with managers' reports. We skipped 11, 12, 13.
You're talking secretary report, legal counsel report?
That's right, and the idea was to come back and go over the budget. So the budget we have not addressed yet, that's what we were.
I don't even know
that's
why
what-
this is here tonight, because of the fact that we just still approved it during this meeting.
That's what we were supposed to be here discussing the budget tonight.
Right.
So let's
So-
do it.
Let's do the secretary report.
I will get to the point when we need to get to the, just, you've had your chance to make your grandstanding, let's just let it go at that. I want to talk about the refund that's going out. I want that refund to be going out this month. I don't want to wait till next month so that we can't discuss it and get it moving. We have, Julie, I don't know if you had a chance to get the labels from the county.
Mr. Chairman, we don't even have a correct list from the county. I don't know how we can do this.
Well, I gave a week ago here. I gave you a big pile of that high.
Wasn't there discussion?
Just hold on, just don't start talking, because you raise your hand doesn't mean that you got the right to start talking.
But the county list, even that we had for the elections is not even close to being correct. So I'm trying to tell you. So,
How are we able to hold legal elections if we don't have good listening?
the ones that came in were checked, but I'm just telling you, the books we have and the county list is not even close to being correct. So even if we go, you're wanting it to correct it in the next month, that's not even feasible.
Well, it is feasible, we're gonna have it done. I gave you a big pile here, you weren't here, I don't know what happened to you, and that's immaterial. You, I'm sure have got it in your office there somewhere. There's a big pile that high of showing
That
people's names that have a refund coming.
That you're certified that's correct by the county.
That was from the county auditor.
Mr. Chairman, when we ran the election, the county gave me 3 lists. The first one I was told was incorrect. They gave me list number 2. They told me that was incorrect. Go with list number 3. List number 3 had irrigation district, black sands, all kinds of districts on there, people that were not in our district. and it had eliminated people that were in our district. That's why we ran a separate operation in the next room to go in there, and we had employees actually looking up on the county website to see if individuals were paying assessments to us or not. We have 4 huge binders full of the list, the third list that was supposed to be correct. And right now, office staff is going through that list and looking at the errors in there, because we are responsible for our own list of ratepayers. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to do this. There are, in the first binder that we've gotten through so far, and I think it's almost all the way through, more colored tabs on the outside than you can count a stick at that are corrections that need to be made by the county.
Okay.
They're incorrect. So the list that you gave to me last week, Kurt hasn't even seen it, he's been gone. It's in my office now.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable that it's correct, because our list has not been correct, and that's part
Yeah.
of what we're trying to do. So
Well,
just so you know,
Yeah.
if there could have been property sold in those
Lori
3 fund
Grammer assured me
years,
that.
may I finish, please?
Yeah, sure.
There could be property sold in those last few years, and if we just take the name that's on that list and we give that person a refund, then we have a problem in refunding money to somebody it doesn't belong to. We may have to go back to vesting deeds, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, to double check who owned the property in 08, 09. We have to do a thorough check, or we're just handing money out.
Well,
So that's my concern.
we've had basically a year, and I know that it's been a lot of trouble trying to get the names. But on the other hand, if we gotta have somebody go down through that list, one person over here looking up the information and finding out who it is, then let's get enough people in the office where we can start down. Because I'm not comfortable owing this money out there and just acting like if we wait long enough that it'll go away.
Well, that's my concern, we are working on it,
Yeah.
amongst other things.
Yeah.
So to do it in a month, I'm saying that's humanly impossible.
Well,
Can you tell me about percentage-wise how far we are through it? Percentage-wise about how far we are through it?
Are we a quarter of the way through it?
25%?
Well, just for example, just under one name, there were 4 pages in our book that belonged to Black Sands Irrigation, just one farmer, 4 pages. And I have tagged, we have 4 binders with the alphabet. And just with Black Sands people, it took me several days just to distinguish them from ours.
Okay, so,
I found people who voted on parcels that are not in our district. Just going through every parcel one by one. I found people that have sold parcels back in '04 that voted on those parcels.
okay, so, we're about 25% through, you think? How long has it taken you? I'm just
I've
trying
been
to
here
get an
since
idea.
October,
Okay,
and I've been
so-
working on it.
So October, November, December, so we do the next
I'm on
75%.
ours, I've been through the Rs for the last 3 days while I do my regular job.
Okay, so, I'm trying to get a timeline about what do you expect?
A year.
Well, in order for us to get through this list, I mean, we can do that in a timely fashion, but once we turn that over to the county, I don't know how they're gonna be able to handle those many corrections that quickly. That's, I mean, it's kind of an unknown, so that's what
Corrections.
Now, is this something we're doing electronically?
they will be doing it electronically.
Okay, we're just gonna hand them a,
Yeah, we don't have access to their system, so we'll make the corrections, draw it to their attention, and then
can we
send
do
it over to
can we
them.
do it electronically so that they can compare the two?
No,
I have to go parcel by parcel.
parcel by parcel, it's all on the
I'm finding
GIS system.
people that are not in the district, I'm finding people that are multiple owners to one parcel, and it's not at all. Each one of those 7 people on one parcel could have come in and voted, and we would not have caught it.
So, I know that we've been promised the list has been good before, but this is the worst list I've ever seen. I think something happened when they converted to their new TerraScan program. I've never seen it like this before. It was a nightmare, and it is a nightmare for us to go through methodically every single parcel on every single property owner in our district. And I feel that we need the time to do it and do it correctly.
Well, we want it done correctly, but I just know that it just seems like it's been dragging on, and.
We have issued some checks, right?
Yes.
We have issued the ones that I can verify
So you're,
at this point.
so,
Okay.
is there any way we can contact the people we do
Well-
know about?
Well, that's what I'm saying, there's a lot of people there that I can just go down there, you can see they paid it 2008, 2009, 2010, they paid it this much, and, Chris, I gave you a list of kind of, a short form letter there, stating that, we're trying to get it out, and we're trying to get it done right, for these people to be able to get back to us and not make it so complicated, that they gotta spend 5-6 hours here trying to get their canceled checks and all the stuff that has been required here to try and then we need some kind of a waiver so that when they do come in and are given their money, that they would not come back on us later and say, well, I want interest on my money now, or I want to go back a year further back, or something like this. We need to have a waiver that they can sign. We can tell them how much their check's gonna be, and then the board will actually sign the check, but we need to keep it pretty simple there. Norm, you had your hand up there.
When I was on the board, it was determined that the mobile homes that were classified as real property were taxed. And the ones that, like a RV that is a titled, wouldn't be.
Yeah, that.
Even though that mobile home is on rented property, it would still be assessed.
Well, here's what's happened is that we tried to get to go through, but then we found out that they couldn't vote. So we cannot tax them and then not allow them to vote. So that's kind of a double thing there that was happening on those people there. So we made the decision that if they can't vote, they cannot be required to make the payment.
Well, if
So
they pay an assessment, they sure as heck would be entitled
Well,
to vote.
but this is on land, Norman, and that is a different thing than what the mobile home in itself is. And so that's,
It was brought forth
Yeah.
by the county and an attorney at the time.
yeah, I know it was, and that's probably part of what's got us into some of this trouble, and a lot of the people that we owe out here right now is because they have a mobile home, they're not allowed to vote, and they likewise have it in a park, where the park has actually got the parcels rather than the mobile home. So,
Well, as an example of business downtown that's on rented property that the
Yeah.
owner builds to suit the tenant. He doesn't own the building,
no,
but,
yeah, but the person that owns the property is the one that gets the vote, so it doesn't make any difference how many you got rented out there, regardless of whether you rented or you got 100 pieces that you rent. That is, doesn't cut it. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if this money was collected, I guess I want to say illegally, maybe council can speak to this, is it legal to withhold the interest? That's
Well,
basic. I mean, you're saying here that you're going to have them sign a waiver saying they don't get the interest, but you've had the money the whole time, so, and it was collected.
I'll tell you why I'm asking that interest not be included, just to keep it simple. You have a person that's made payments for 3 years, he's made it twice a year. You've got interest that would be figured on, depending on what day they paid it on. It would be a nightmare to go through here on $20 or $25 or $50, figure the interest for that many days, go to the next time he paid it, when he paid it. We're trying to keep it simple, and we're trying to keep it
I
out
wanna
of
get them
court.
their money as quick as.
I understand that, but still,
Yeah,
if
well,
this goes
that's-
back and it's a substantial amount of money, and once again, maybe legal counsel can ask that. Is that state legal that you can say you don't get your interest even though we've had your money illegally for
Well,
so many years?
we've spent their money, and we spent it on projects that they've enjoyed, so.
Okay, but I mean, still, you didn't answer the question. What's the, I'm looking for a question. Do
Okay.
you know the statute to the law
There,
of withholding
basically,
interest from people's money?
The law is very vague on, and
Well,
Chris can maybe attest to this, that the law is very vague on when you've taken money that you wasn't really supposed to, and then how do you pay it back?
Well,
You know,
that's
so
what I'm trying to get some clarification
But I
on
think,
here.
we're trying to make it simple for them. Come in, we'll look up what you paid, we're making an offer to pay it to you in a simple manner here, rather than making you go back and show you when you wrote your check and what.
I understand that, I'm just
there.
trying to say.
And in some cases, like the school and some of these government agencies, we will probably have to. They'll be required to figure the interest and stuff. And
Once
so,
again, has Newhouse looked at this and said,
Oh.
this is legally, how we're
Newhouse-
gonna be able to do this, or?
Newhouse hasn't got anything to do with this.
Yeah, that's a different.
Well,
Let me interrupt for a second, and I'm gonna pose a
No, I'm
question
not,
to the legal
you got-
counsel. if I-
You got another one ahead of you here, huh?
well, I would like, actually, I'd like to hear what, Ron
That's
has to
fine.
say, just please, I just would like to hear, because it always helps to have a little bit of,
But,
you know, back and forth, just to hear what, please,
But-
Chairman, please, at this point, can.
Well, I'd like to turn it to legal counsel for a second here,
Okay.
get his opinion, as far as the interest goes, as far as what we can do and what we cannot offer here.
All right, as Mr. Chairman said, there is no statute that talks about refunds from an assessment district. We're an assessment district, we're not a tax district. So along that line, as far as your letter, when I was reviewing it, it does make reference to the payment of taxes, and just for accuracy's sake, I could refer to assessment.
Right,
I
assessment.
realize it's a distinction that most people don't really care about, but it's important here because if there were taxes, we'd have a very specific statute that talks about how it's done. And that specific statute provides for how far back you can go, the process that you follow to apply for it, and it does provide for interest on those funds. We are not applicable to that one. We're not subject to that particular act. There's no act relating to us. So I assume that we fall under the law that would pertain to any debt. And the law that pertains to any debt would be, would provide for interest to 12%, assuming it's a liquidated sum. This would be a liquidated sum. That would be my interpretation of the law. I believe what you're proposing is not necessarily a policy, but you're essentially proposing a settlement offer, is how I see it. And if an assessment payer, to be proper, wants to accept that settlement offer and signs a release, presumably they can. We don't have the authority to strong arm them to do it, just as we don't have the authority to strong arm them to do anything else.
Right.
So,
But what if they ask for their interest? Are you prepared to?
If they want to pursue it, maybe take us to court on it.
Okay. Because you just alluded to the fact that the schools and the other districts might,
Yeah.
you know, so.
We're making it simple.
Okay.
We're trying to make it very simple, and I think by keeping it simple, most people will probably be agreeable to us. We're gonna get some people that may not be happy with what we're offering, and in that case, we'll have to take another look at it. And whether it comes up with a lawsuit or something here, I'm not at this time suggesting anything. I'm just saying that we'd like to make a settlement, and we'd like to keep it very simple. Ron, you had your hand up.
Chris, perhaps while you're educating us, you could educate Mr. Hansen on the fact that we have a resolution that we passed last year addressing this issue. We indicated that we would be paying interest on that. Could you apprise him of that resolution and how we were facing the return of these funds?
I was going to take that up under legal counsel report, but I can address it now, since we're on the topic. We, in fact, have a very specific policy. I know everyone's familiar with it, at least on the board, where all I did was take the statute relating to tax refunds and write a policy for us that's identical. For all practical purposes, it's identical with that one. Saying, well, the legislature decided that was proper for taxes. From a layman's perspective, there's no difference between taxes and assessments, and they're all paid the same way, and they come on the same tax statement, so why don't we adopt one that's just like that instead of reinventing the wheel? So that's what I did. That one does provide, again, a limitation on the length of time back that they can go. Provides for interest at 12%. Is there any particular reason it had to be drafted that way? No.
Yeah.
Except for I just didn't reinvent the wheel. I just made it just like the one for taxpayers.
But you're, in drawing that up, you made it so that as it drops off, you can only go back 3 years total, and if
Just like the taxes.
if 1 year's already gone by, then they only get 2 years. Is that kind of the way that's set up?
Let me explain how it works. What it does is it allows you count your period back from the date you ask for the refund. And you can go back and pick up any taxes you paid from that date back 3 years.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean if you applied today
Right.
January 17th, you can pick up, well, you can go back and you could get taxes back to January 17th of 2000, what's it, 9?
9.
But if you paid them on the 16th, they're out. And so indeed, it's marching forward, and again, I didn't invent it, I
Yeah.
simply
Well,
adopted it.
And this is the part where I had the problem with it.
And I understand that, your policy
I'm
is
saying
clearly
that
different.
it's our fault that this notice hasn't gone out. It hasn't gone out to the people yet, and it's our fault and not theirs.
And I would say that this board has the authority to change that, but we, rather than just, I mean, it'll be my recommendation, that rather than simply start firing out our letters, we do need to amend that resolution and that refund policy. And you can do that,
Okay.
but we just need to do it.
Okay.
I know I brought a copy of that policy for you to take a
Okay.
look at, and we can get the revisions put together to set it forth. And just one other thing I'd throw out there, it has what you detailed, a difficult petition processing, and I know you don't like it. It's for obvious reasons trying to avoid paying someone that isn't entitled to money, which is a tricky endeavor here. That's what we're all talking about here. The petition itself, or that they have to fill out, could be simplified, but I guess I would caution this board against simplifying the procedure then that we follow internally to determine whether they're entitled to something. I would caution us against oversimplifying that to the point we start sending money out the door that people aren't entitled to. I know you mentioned the unconstitutional gifting issue at the last meeting, and of course that applies to any municipality when we hand money out, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Archer?
Well, I guess my question is, it sounds like it might be some time before we actually have an accurate list. So, basically, if it takes us 2 days or 2 months to get this done, they're gonna lose that much interest, right, or that much refund on their money?
Well, they would under the existing policy.
Okay.
Under the existing policy, that's correct, because it's marching forward, it's 3-year look-back window.
So the longer we take, the less they get back, am I right?
Unless you amend that policy.
Yeah. Is that something we do tonight without having a problem? If so, I'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
You can, once again, yes, you can do it
Okay.
by oral motion. My preference always is that if you're gonna do it by oral motion, then I would say that your motion should say that we will then, at our next regular meeting, sign a formal resolution that encompasses
Okay.
that.
That would be, what I would like to see happen is that we tonight go ahead and make the motion that we do away with that resolution that tied it basically to the same form that we use for the taxes rather than assessments. And we will wait next time to sign the resolution if that's something that you're gonna be taking off of tomorrow. And
Yeah, that's why you picked a terrible week to shove all this on me, but.
I know.
Yeah, as far as a formal resolution, your motion can bring it in so that it's effective.
Okay.
Okay, and then we should paper it properly so that there's one document we have to look at for our policies. That makes it easy for the staff.
Let's just say then, by the next normal, regular meeting time, which should be in the February, the second Tuesday of February, that we try and have a resolution put together by that time. But tonight, we'd like to go ahead and make a motion to make it effective before the resolution.
Okay, then one point of clarification is that, since this involves a resolution, I need to prepare. Am I to take the existing resolution we have and essentially just change the look
I think
back
we just
period?
need to do away with that resolution.
In its entirety?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just start over because I mean, you can use some of the same wording or whatever you gotta use out of it, but I think that we need to do away with that and put a new one in. And basically, we're handling it as an assessment rather than as a tax. And kind of what we were before was we've taken assessment, made it handled the same way as the tax, but this would be a new way of handling it. It would be, because it's an assessment, it can go back 3 years at any point in time.
Okay, so I'll take this then as to amend the resolution adopting, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you started to make a motion and I tried to follow that, but I got lost.
Okay.
We're
So,
getting it.
are we making a motion here, or can we restate, or what are we doing?
We're making a motion
Okay.
that we will reinforce with a resolution when it gets here. But for tonight, we're saying that we can go back 3 years regardless of when the notice goes out and when the people come in, that they will be given 3 years back without having any hassle whatsoever.
Okay, so a date certain.
Huh?
A date certain that we can go back to what date?
Yeah, we're gonna go back to the year 2008.
To January 108?
Yep. That's when the higher assessment started, so that's kind of why I'd like to go back to that time.
Okay, so that's 4 years from essentially today, and you're counting 3 years back
Yeah.
from when we found
Well,
this problem.
But they didn't have the problem this last year. So there'd still be there's a 3-year block there that I don't want to just see be eaten away because of our dragging our feet. And I don't mean anything.
It's just, there's a lot of feet there.
Don't mean anything as far as how long it's been taking us. I just feel that we need to guarantee the people that they got 3 years coming back, because that's there and they have paid it, and we owe it to them regardless of what happens.
But the mistake was made on the part of the county, correctly? Is that correct? It's
How's
the
that?
county, it was the county's mistake.
I don't know where the mistake is.
Yeah, they were the ones that collected the taxes
They-
on people that
yeah,
shouldn't have
but
been.
who gave them the boundary? I don't know.
I think it was before anybody in this room.
So we're not gonna point fingers, we're not gonna say who did it, who didn't do it.
We're just gonna make it right.
But we're gonna try and make it right, and that's all we're asking here, is that there is a bunch of money out there that's gonna be people coming and getting refunds for it, and we need to get it taken care of as quickly as we can. Yeah. Judy?
I just wanted to, I'm not clear on something. This district has owed this money and known that they owed the money. So would it be prudent for us to get it, even if it takes extra office staff, to get those papers gone through, which sounds like an overwhelming process, so that we can get ourselves legally in a good place?
I would like to see it happen.
Yeah.
The month of January.
I mean,
it's
this
all
lady
possible
said
to have
it'd be
that.
another year, is that correct?
Huh?
This lady back here, I heard somebody say it might take them another year.
No, we'll make sure that it's, regardless of how much help we have to get here to get this taken and get it taken and care of right, these letters are going to be going out real shortly. This has got to be done, and we got to get it done shortly.
And even though the county collected it, the district got the money.
We got the money, we spent the money. The people that are out here have enjoyed as much as the people that paid it and didn't have any refund coming. It's all part of the same package deal, so maybe eventually, if we treat them and treat them right, maybe someday they might consider coming back into the district and actually help them pay some of the way. That's good.
My job, I'm always looking at liabilities and auditing. My question would be to Chris, since we've already paid out to a few requests and we paid out interest already, we set a precedent in that regard and a big liability issue if we change now and don't pay the rest of it without interest.
And we will have had certainly inconsistent policies. Once again, the only way you can justify the approach of not paying interest is to treat it as essentially a settlement negotiation that's offered and accepted, as opposed to recognition of a pure legal obligation. A pure legal obligation involves interest.
So we're covered either way.
And just for the record, I just wanted to bring it up.
You gotta check for everything.
We got anything further on the agenda that you want to try and cover before we move on to anything else?
Well, I'd like to see a second, and then I'd like to see a vote. You don't control this thing just by making statements, and this
You wanna
is the
read
way
back our motion?
we're gonna do it here, so.
Let's have Julie read back the motion.
Motion to reinforce with a resolution when it gets here, but tonight we are saying we're gonna go back 3 years without any hassle whatsoever, go back to the year 2008, January 1. Is that?
That's very briefly it, I think. State that as a motion.
I'll second the motion.
How about discussion?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm asking, are you running the meeting or is he? You both gotta take the
I kind of wonder whether I am or you are, but go ahead.
but I mean,
Let's
you know,
let's go ahead and keep
I'm
going.
asking, I'm asking.
Are you, is that pertaining to what we're talking here, or what's happening here? Ron, come on.
I'm all for seeing that people that paid into the district get a refund. I feel we have to handle it, even across the board. We don't treat some a certain way and others a different way. The explanation that Chris just gave us does indicate that instead of returning an assessment, we're actually, what's the term you used? It's a settlement agreement?
Compromise, yeah.
Yeah, and so if the resolution is written that way, I can see that we've eliminated putting ourselves in an awkward position. We followed the first resolution with regard to those that have been given money back to date. We'll follow the second resolution. Your motion is very, very difficult to understand, and doesn't really say what I think you want it to say. Therefore, I'm not sure I even understand the motion. And probably will vote against it, but not because I don't want to see the people get the money back. I just like to see us do things right here.
Okay,
That's it.
all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. The reason we're keeping this motion very brief is the fact that Chris will be coming up with a resolution. And at that point in time, we'll look at it, and I'm sure it'll be much more complete and much more to the detail than what we're talking here tonight. But it will probably basically accomplish the same thing, only make sure we're better protected. So that's kind of where we're at here. Yeah.
Is there a reason for going back to the year 2008? Was that just an arbitrary number, or?
Well, that's 3 years, and that is the year that the assessments jumped up to the full dollar per thousand. And you could go back, I don't know, go back, who knows how far?
Yeah, because really, that's 4 years back.
How's that?
I mean, from January 1st.
Yeah, see what
it's
we're-
4 years back.
Yeah,
The reason we're kind of doing that is because we actually found out about this a year ago. And so we're trying to go back to where we started, where we realized we made a mistake, and correct it from then backwards instead of just letting it keep sliding away and the taxpayers are losing their money. So we want to make sure that they get what they're due. Does that make sense?
This is part of when we went around and found our new boundaries and where they actually were, how many voters we had and didn't have, and likewise, these people that have been paying assessments, and it's a house cleaning detail here that we're working on.
Okay, so.
Anything? Secretarial report.
Nothing to do, okay. Anything else we need to cover on our agenda here that we missed?
Are you gonna give the directors a chance to speak? That next?
Oh, I'm not even sure where that page is that we're looking at, and where is it? That's yeah, that's the new agenda, which was approved at this meeting, so I'm thinking you're still talking out of the agenda that you had from the meeting.
No, you threw it away. You tore it up and threw it away, so, this is what we're having to work off of.
Well, then I'm put back up to the top again, then, if that's the case.
Oh, no.
We've spent an hour going over
Well, you're not helping
everything.
matters any here. I've got some agenda items here that we want to cover, and I'm sorry if you don't want to go ahead and leave. I don't care. But please, don't sit here and try and run the meeting.
I'm not.
Well,
I
you
wish
are.
you would though, and do it appropriately.
Stop it.
No, I'm serious.
Stop it now.
I am serious.
You are not even gonna get called on if you don't keep it quiet here. Last meeting, we talked about drug testing on a random basis. Chris, I think you might have had a chance to look over what the word random there means and let us know what, we'd like to get that completed here probably within the month or shortly here.
Well, I've had an opportunity to look through several other issues. No, Mr. Chairman, I've not had an opportunity to.
After that, a chance to look at that. Kurt, I don't know if you might have a,
Can I have a clarification on what you're requesting?
yeah. Is what we're like to do is, I realize that employees are drug tested on a random basis. And likewise, the board is likewise supposed to be tested on a random basis, I assume, because as you walk into this building, you'll see where there's a sign that says, the board, the employees of this establishment have been drug tested. And Rich has been here for 2 years, Ron's been here a year. I don't know how many drug tests that your employees have actually gone through, but I think that within the next few weeks, few months, here, I'd like to see that accomplished. And I'll dump that in your lap, but that's something that we can maybe make sure that if we're gonna advertise it, let's make sure that it actually applies.
Okay, I just request, I wanted to clarify that as we have a handbook that the employees have to follow, and if you were gonna change that, I would have to rewrite the handbook. So that's what
No, we're not trying to.
you just wanna include the board members, that's what you're requesting.
Yeah, I like to have the board and all everybody that's an employee.
We all get random already. The
Yeah.
board just has.
Well, but I guess that when you say you've already got random, I don't know how many employees that you got. Have they all been drug tested?
They're drug tested at the date of employment,
Okay.
and the drug testing agency is the one who does the random. We don't do the random, they choose random. And they tell us who comes in and gets tested.
Okay.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be random.
Well, but maybe we ought to step up how often random is. Well, I mean, if you go for 2 years and you haven't had one.
You've been thinking random once a
They
year
at least once a year.
twice a year.
So everybody gets
Everybody, okay, hold on here, we'll get kind of noisy out here.
There's state rules, laws, for employees to and that's qualified.
So the way it is right now, all employees get it at least once a year. Okay, good. And you can include the board in the,
As long as the board, Chris, legally, they have to put the resolution together to do that, how do we legally do that?
I have had an opportunity to think about that. The board members are, of course, are elected officials. And as elected officials, they can't be removed from office even frankly for a positive drug test. Unless, simply put, the board unanimously approves the procedure and everyone voluntarily participates in it. So.
when you come in, like I say, the sign out there says the board and the employees. So we either take the board off of it or we get tested. And that's, so.
We're changing the word to say this is a drug-free.
Yeah, I would like to see the board included if we're gonna leave it on the sign.
So that'd be unanimous.
Yeah, I realize that. I would so move that the board be attested randomly along with the employees at least once a year.
I'll second the motion.
Call for the vote.
All in favor? Just a minute, I had a hand up out here. Let me go ahead and set that for you.
I was wondering, how much do those tests cost and who, is that already in the budget, maybe you just haven't gotten to it yet? Because it sounds like
I've never seen a budgeted item for drug testing.
It's included in our employee salaries stuff, but yours as a board will be an additional, I believe they're $70.
They're 40 some dollars for non-DOT, DOT is a lot more than that. But I can't recall exactly.
Pretty cheap. that's,
I'm just wondering what, please, I apologize, but you're all older gentlemen. Drug testing takes up medications. Is there going to be a policy of a retest to define what a failure is? What are the consequences of a failure?
I think that's in the handbook.
You're, okay, so you want it to be identical as to the handbook?
Yeah, I think we get treated the same as anybody else. So, yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Last time we talked about a list of the employees, the rate of pay, the job title, job description, what they're doing now. Kurt, I know that you've been gone, and I don't know that this has happened yet, but I would like to, if we can, make sure that that's done before the
Next meeting.
before the February meeting.
Mr. Hansen, I remember that last time it was addressing the workers' hours that you had said, or maybe it was Mr. Archer had said he didn't want them to work, he wanted them to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that he had said no one in any other water district or irrigation district works 410s. And so I got curious and I emailed the managers of all the water districts that had an email, and a substantial amount of them work 410s.
Yeah.
And one gentleman said, you know, sometimes we even work 612s. So depending on what the job is, the time of year, wanting to get the workers off the lake in the summers for recreation on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday by boats. I just thought I would bring to your attention that other districts do. And the other question I have too
Let
is
me
that.
answer that question first, or at least comment to it. The reason I'm thinking that we should go to 810s is because we're so small.
810s?
810s, they weren't any bigger.
5/8.
5/8, I'm sorry, 810s, that'd be good. Anyway, 5/8 is because we're such a small, we have so many few, we don't hardly have any employees. I'm thinking a lot of the other districts have got, you know.
Well, one of the
80,
managers
90
said,
employees.
one of the gentlemen said, well, it's the manager's discretion. He knows what
I
jobs need to
understand
be done. He knows if the heat's too bad for people. And so I just thought just a broad scope statement like that, I just wanted to validate. And I found that it wasn't true in many of the districts. And then the other question, I just wanted verification for this, because I had asked how many irrigation districts there are in the state. And I guess what I should have asked is how many irrigation and rehabilitation districts there are in the
Yeah,
state.
well, there's one.
Because there's only one, and we're the only one.
That's
We're
the
not
only
one of
the only
34.
one we care about. Right on this thing.
Our rules are totally different than everyone else's.
Right, I found out
We-
that we have our own
yeah,
RCWs.
that's why we struggle with this thing.
Well, I mean, I like the fact that this isn't just about pushing water,
No.
this is about rehabilitating our
Rehabilitation.
lake.
Right, exactly. Yeah, very good.
I guess my question would be on the hours. I've worked both shifts over the years, and it seems to me that a decision like this would be up to the manager of the Moses Lake Irrigation Rehabilitation District, because he's in charge of the day-to-day activities, not the board. It just seems like you're overstepping or micromanaging your manager, and that would be his job. Why, that, if he
Well-
sees fit for to have certain hours at certain times, my opinion is that's what we're paying this gentleman for. I mean, that's what he's supposed to be getting paid for.
That's right. And we do not want to get into micromanaging, but there's some things that have been happening here that we object to.
Well, could you clarify what things have been happening so I would understand better?
410s would be one of them, and when you haven't got
I've got comments on that.
anybody here, you know, I mean, that's.
We said things are happening, I guess I'm not sure what's happening.
Rich,
Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, right now, we're closing down our park, you know, through the winter time. And I would think that if we were, had our employees there more often, we would have less need to hire part-time help, because we could use our help we have now, because we would have them there an extra day. So that would take away some of the part-time help. Also, we may be able to extend that into the winter time too, so we can leave our park open a little longer, so the public can enjoy it longer. And so that's kind of my thinking on it, Dale.
Well, it's my understanding that that part-time help is because if you were an actual employee of the district doing the work that needs to be done at the park, that park is open more than a person works in a daytime.
I'm sure it is.
There's,
But you still got 8 hours in there, an extra 8 hours a day that you wouldn't have to pay somebody to do that. And part-time is part-time, it doesn't mean 8 hours. I mean, we could hire
Well,
a
it
part-time.
was my understanding when I looked
4
at this,
hours.
is that you pay less overtime if you are on 410s.
No, but we're hiring part-time help for an extra 4 or 5 hours, 8 hours a day, that our regular employees could probably take care of that facility. And then a part-time could take care of that from when they go home to when it's closed, because part-time doesn't have to be 8 hours. It could be 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever we need.
I think we're getting, let me move on to the next subject. Before we, we've already been talking about 410s and the 5/8s. I think we're on 5/8 now, aren't we, Kurt? Yeah, okay, so I don't think we've got a problem there, and when we're running the dredge, I can understand where you might wanna have 410s to have it run longer hours and less shutdown as far as starting up and shut down. Because every time you stop it, you've got to drain that system, and when you start her back up again, you got so much pipe there that's not carrying any kind of mud. So you add to the size of the pond without adding much dirt to it, and I can understand that.
Can I clarify what we actually were? During those harvest seasons and everything, we work around boating schedules and heat and when we have to harvest. So to work 5/10 is a ridiculous schedule because you stand there.
5/8, you mean?
Yeah, 5/8. You got me all screwed up.
Yeah.
All of us are, yeah.
The park personnel works 5 days, and then we have 2 temporaries that fill in the other 3.5s and then in the evening, so it's not, the park has nothing to do with working 410s. 410s are the guys in operations and construction projects, so.
Okay.
So there's
been a lot of talk since I was elected as to what's gonna happen to the dredge, what's gonna happen to the park, what's gonna happen to a lot of things that's been going on over the years, and Chris, I might go ahead and put a copy there for you. I think I got one here. Okay. Anyway, I've kind of put together a mission statement, and this is not just myself. I've had a chance to talk with a number of people, and I've talked to Rich also before we were elected, and to get both of our ideas put together. I haven't included Ron on it, and Ron, this is going to catch you cold, but on the other hand, I feel that it's necessary at this point in time to kind of give this to you and let you see kind of where we're coming from, and make some sense to what we're doing.
Mom, I too believe that for every motion that Rich makes, you're going to second, and everything you make, he's going to second, because you're talking in the we, and you're putting Ron on the outside, and it just seems to me that that is poor logic, that you should listen to all different sides. I haven't seen.
Rich, do you want to answer that question?
That's exactly how I felt here the last 2 years.
Well, I don't care how you felt here for the last year, so you don't want to take that out on somebody else.
Well, I mean.
Do you?
right
Is
now
it, so
we're-
this is a witch hunt?
No, it's not a witch hunt. This is trying to get the taxpayers their money's worth.
I'm a taxpayer,
Give me money's worth.
okay? Well, apparently not when I don't have a board that's functioning.
No, this one's fine.
Yeah, of course, because you're getting your way. So I'm so sorry you
A lot of
didn't.
things have changed.
Okay,
since I've come here.
we're talking when we're not raising our hand here, so, Ron?
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate to have people identify themselves, give their address before they speak, so that we know who's communicating?
Well, he got rid of that last week. He got rid of
No,
that.
we didn't get rid of that. We asked that you can simplify it, you can put your name and your telephone number, and that's what you want to put on there, but on the other hand, you're welcome to go ahead and fill out the list the same as you've always had. But we do ask that you have a
Oh, my
name.
name's Karen Stahl, and I live at 186 Pelican Drive, because you can even take your cell phone and take a picture where I signed in, the gentleman last week that was so worried about that. But anyway, I live here in Moses, I teach at the high school, and I fight ignorance.
Let's keep it in addressing the chair.
Good.
Huh? All this? Well, did I wander? Anyway, let's keep it one-on-one here, so we don't get lost as far as getting the whole conversation going here. But anyway, I got a mission statement here, and Ron, I don't know if you want to be part of this mission statement or not. I put your name on the bottom, and I thought we'd go ahead and
Apparently no.
talk about it a little bit. I want to go ahead, have you either yay or nay on it, and I will sign it. And Rich, I don't know if you have a,
I haven't had a chance to really look over all of it, but I will.
Excuse me, what just happened, you came up with a mission statement
right?
that your employees haven't seen, I
No.
think.
No,
Or
I
even the
think this
attorney,
is,
Ron hasn't seen.
this is
And
a
then you're
mission
saying, well, we're
statement of the
gonna
board.
sign it, it just seemed a little, really out of order.
It is a mission statement of the board if he hasn't been involved in it.
Well, a mission statement
This
is a mission of the whole group.
This is not.
No, I mean, is that what just happened? You just presented it,
I
right?
just presented this
Yeah.
because there's been a lot of
That's
questions.
not a mission statement
It's a mission statement.
from you.
Well,
But not,
I'm
but it's not
putting,
irrigation.
just a minute,
district.
I'm putting it before the board.
I pay taxes, this is the irrigation district, and we need to work together.
That's
And not
exactly
just
what this
somebody
is trying to get us
dictating,
done.
like I just saw happen.
This is exactly what we're doing.
I'm
here.
shocked.
Just because you say it's true doesn't mean it's true.
I'll go ahead and read it. I was gonna go ahead and have it printed up. In fact, why don't I go ahead and, if somebody, Ron, if you wanna sign your name on it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
Haven't had a chance to read it, and
Okay.
it's totally out of order.
No, Rich, do you,
I think, let's just read through it and just kind of explain what you're thinking.
okay. There's been a lot of, hold on here.
Okay, what we're gonna do, guys, we're just gonna kind of read through this and kind of discuss it just a little bit.
We've had a couple of hands up over here for a
Yeah,
long time.
Yeah, I know we have.
Let's
but,
wait until we read the letter
Let's,
first.
let's tell you
It'll
what
answer your questions.
I know you don't want to clear what we have.
It'll answer your questions a lot well.
Mission statement is one sentence, remember.
Make it a little easier to read.
This is mixed mission statement.
The dredge. We will finish overhauling the dredge, finish mounting it on a trailer, and put it on hold for at least 1 year. We will still have several years of work for the dredge, working in areas where it's too wet to work in the dry. Also, opening up any bowls we may create while working in the dry. Trapping fish during the next drawdown of the lake. Also, we will continue to seek ways of increasing our production with the dredge, mainly the dewatering process. Working in the dry, we will start immediately seeking a revision to the present permit. The city of Moses Lake has asked for a backup plan. Maybe this will qualify. We hope to start working in the dry the first part of December 2012. The dredge will start the cleanup process July 1, 2013. So 2013 is, as far as this part of the board is concerned, is probably the soonest that we're going to see the dredge out there. Exchange equipment. When working in the dry, larger equipment will be necessary. Even when cleaning up the dredge pond, larger equipment will double or triple production. Therefore, we will be surplusing a number of smaller pieces in exchange for larger pieces. To start with, this will be the equipment affected. 2 of the Maroka dump trucks, trade or sale for 2 Volvo or 2 Cat articulating dump trucks size 735 or equal. 1 Cat 924G front end loader, sell or trade for a Cat 966 or a Cat 980 loader. These 3 pieces of machinery are necessary for both projects, working in the dry and the dredging project. The small excavator, this has been out at the park a good portion of the time, but I do not feel this is, and like I say, I've talked with Rich about this a little bit. Small excavator, sell or trade for a John Deere or a Cat backhoe front end loader, 4-wheel drive, extend-a-hoe with 1 and 2 foot buckets to be used at Conley Park. John Deere size 310 or 410 or equal in Cat. The Cat roller, I don't think we've used it enough to keep the rust off the drum. So we're saying sell that. The lake harvester, at least one of the lake harvesters needs to go. We are very limited on how much we're using that, and keep the best one, let the other one go. Other equipment that we may be purchasing, maybe a joint usage of a 400 horsepower twin engine workboat with Grant County Fire District 5. I've talked to the fire chief up there, and he's going to take it to his board and see if we can work out. This is more like a tugboat than it is anything else, and it might be something that jointly, it's not gonna cost either one of us, that we may be able to maintain and keep it in our usage and have all the usage we want. And Grant County 5 likewise would have a usage for it if they ever needed it. We purchased through surplus a 6,000 to 7,000 pound rubber-tired forklift, maximum mast height of 9.5 feet for shop usage. Right now, we've got our front end loader with the forks on it, and I realize it's real handy around here. If we sell that front end loader, then we will not have the forks, and a small forklift would be very handy at that point in time. But I don't think we need to tie up almost a brand new $100,000 front end loader with a set of forks with that in mind. When in full swing, working on the sandbar, we'll still need to rent some larger equipment, like a large excavator and additional trucks, but this extra equipment we will be wiser to rent. Purchase a location for Moses Lake Irrigation and Rehabilitation would have enough room for an office shop and able to yard most of its equipment and have access to the lake and still be accessible to most of the people, moving away from the present $54,200 annual rent. Connolly Park, we're looking at possibly moving in a new double-wide mobile home, place it on the, I'm saying the upper bench, but it would be the halfway bench. Then contract with a park ranger to provide some of the maintenance and security for the park. This will double the hours the park's being opened and possibly save money in the long run, because we'll have a 24-hour person living there. These are a few of the immediate plans for MLIRD. Hope we can all climb aboard, make it happen. If nothing more, it should help answer some of the questions that will be happening. Board of Directors, Rich Archer, Mick Hansen, Ron Cooley. And we'll try and get copies to everybody here.
Did you get permission to work in the dry?
But no, we haven't. But we haven't even asked you.
Well, but we're already getting rid of the dredge and you have no permission.
No, we haven't
to
got
work
rid of
in
the
dry.
dredge.
No, but you're not gonna run it this year,
That's right.
and you have no permission to work in the dry.
No. What we will be, we have talked to them. They said to turn it in, and we will be doing that very shortly. That's part of what my advisory board is likewise going to be working with these people to make sure that they understand exactly what we have in mind and get the taken care of. Yeah, Rich.
A lot of the reason we're trying to do this is not to stop the dredging. We think the dredge has a purpose, but we're thinking we can upgrade our equipment to better equipment. Even with the heavier cats and the heavier dump trucks and all that, it's going to make the dredging process go faster and easier to do. Is that correct? Does that sound right?
Well, yes, but there's some other issues with ground loading per square foot, things like that, equipment that are even legal to use around the shoreline. So yeah, I agree with you, but there are other issues with that equipment.
Okay. And you know, right now we're just kind of figuring this thing out as we go. It's going to make a little bit of time to get this done. We're not even going to be allowed to go out and start dredging for several months. And so we're thinking in this time period we have between now and then, we're hoping to get something in concrete that we know what we're working with and we can go ahead. But if we don't start this process now, and we are allowed to go ahead and do it, cut it out of the dry like we're hoping to, then we'll be way ahead. And when fall comes around, we're going to get out there and just tear that stuff up. So we want to get it done.
In the dry, my prediction is that we can do in 2 days what we've done all summer long with the bridge.
And being very environmentally unfriendly.
Well, as long as
Or not the same thing.
No,
But,
it is.
the problem is right now it's taken so long and our lake is so big that we're not ever going to get to any other parts of the lake. And so in order to serve all the taxpayers, we need to speed this process up. Right now, our pond is our limit. We can only pump so much in there. We can only run the dredge for 2 or 3 days at a time. We'll have to stop because the pond won't de-water the thing. So we have to figure out some other options on this thing to make it work. And so all we're trying to do is be forward about this thing. I mean, we're not going to stick our head in the sand out here and think it's going to go away. We're going to have to figure out some way to make it happen.
Norm?
The folks considered, when you bring the earth moving machines out there, excuse me, making a little island would save a lot of time, getting permits to get the dirt out of the lake, just push it all and make a bird habitat out of it.
Well,
People happy.
the trouble, Norm, and I think this is kind of the goal that we've been working on here all along, is the fact that if we don't make that a holding area, the new mud coming in is gonna go right under the bridge, and it's gonna go out there, and you see it forming there now, making another new island out there alongside of the fill. And if we don't do something very shortly, that island's gonna keep getting bigger and bigger, and pretty soon we've got a whole new island out there that
You're talking about the one south of Alden Street.
one that is to the south, or Alder Street actually runs north and west, and so, I mean, north and south. And so when you're talking south, I'm saying that's probably to the west. Yeah, to the west.
Mr. Hansen, to be fair to the audience, you have a lady over here that's had her hand up
I
for over 5 minutes.
I know she has.
And you call on your buddy here, who just raised his hand. So, come on, 10 minutes. Please.
Just, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to address the mission statement. We kind of got off track. The audacity to put Mr. Kobe's name on this mission statement before he's even ever had the chance to look at it, is that totally slays me. The other is your mission statement is the oddest that I've ever heard. It sounds more like a project or a work charter. A mission statement, in my mind, is what you will do to uphold what the community and the lake needs and what you will achieve, not your projects for the year. I've never read or heard a mission statement such as your project work charter.
Well, this is what's happening immediately here, or we figure that it might be happening immediately, and we want to make sure everybody knows why. And so, when we start talking about surplusing some equipment out, I want you to know why that we're doing it, and not just that we've got a streak that we want to get rid of some of the equipment.
And you won't start that until after you get the okay to work in the dry.
We can't unless we get a permit.
You won't start surplusing
No, we
material.
will be starting surplus before that.
It's gonna work for us either way.
If you sit here and, let me finish. If you sit here and watch this operation, I've moved dirt all my life, one way or the other. And when I sit here and watch these two little trucks, basically they're a truck on a track. Their top speed is 7.5 miles an hour. They're probably about an 8 to 9 yard vehicle that rides out here so rough that you cannot go over 2 or 3 miles an hour with them without bouncing you clear out of the cab on a hard surface. They're made to go out across the swamp. Now, that's great for them. But these trucks are not meant to go out here and hit on hard gravel and go for a quarter mile or a quarter mile round trip, I should say, probably as close to what we're operating on here. It's taking them 10 to 15 minutes to make a round trip because they gotta drive so slow on the hard rocks and everything. You take a normal cat dump truck or something like that that's made to go out across this here, go into mud, clear up to your belly button here. Those trucks don't even stand a chance of going out there in some places that some of these cat or Volvo trucks will go. And so these will work. I'm saying that front end loader, and I'm saying those two cat dump trucks or Volvo dump trucks would triple production when it comes to take the material from the pond, take it over and put it in the pile. So whether we do anything more than what we're doing right now, I can see where it would be such an advantage to have them over what we're doing now, and to have a front end loader that can load them up. We got a backhoe out here that's probably less than a 2 yard backhoe that's dumping into a truck that can haul close to 20 yards. And it doesn't make sense to do that. Get us a front end loader. We're not talking much difference in money. If we had the money that we actually spent on this equipment, we could go out here and buy the equipment I'm talking here. But we'll probably suffer because of the fact that it's now more used, it's a few years older, and so we may have to pay some extra to get it. But nevertheless, this equipment will be equipment that'll work in either place, and we need to go ahead and start looking right now. Yeah.
How long do you anticipate the permit process in order to do this project that you're talking about?
Well, if we
It
can,
seems like it took us several years to get the permit process.
if we can get it altered, if we can get it altered, we should have permits before this fall. If we got to start over again, then that's going to be another story. But I think, talking to the city, they gave me what it takes to get it altered. They showed me everything that needs to be done and filled out. I think it's, I don't wanna say that it's gonna be an easy job, but I think that the scope of what we're trying to accomplish is exactly the same. We're trying to get rid of that island out there, and if we can do it in a third of the time, or a fourth of the time, or a tenth of the time, the accomplishment's the same when it's all said and done.
So on the short side of this thing, to get I know that it seems like we've been working a long time to even get permits to do the dredging.
Right.
It sounds like it's taken a long time
Yeah,
to get that done.
that's from point zero.
Okay, so now we're talking about trying to get a permit to actually get down on the lake and go through all these different agencies that are involved, and plus the city that's involved.
Right.
And now you're talking about buying this equipment ahead of time before you even
That's
have a
why
permit.
that's why I said this equipment will work for both of them, and it'll work much more efficiently. You can take a rubber tired rig out here and go out across these rocks and have very little damage done to it. You may cut a tire once in a while, but the cost of a tire is nothing like the cost of
But
a
I
track.
question the expenditure of the monies to buy this new equipment or used equipment, whichever it may be, before you have a permit process to do what you want to do.
You lost half of what I said there.
The thing is, see, it's gonna benefit us even on the process we're doing now. It's gonna make the process we're doing now better, even if we can't get the modifications to the permit to get it done. So, all we're asking to do is to upgrade the equipment to make Kurt and our guys' jobs a little easier for them, and so we can get this thing going a little quicker.
Do you have any kind of an idea what you're talking about in
Not
money?
until we get,
In what?
Just open
not until we get some estimate.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate the fact that you mentioned last week that you have to start somewhere. That was your statement on, I can't remember what issue. You know, we have to give you the chance to start somewhere. And I think you need to respect what the previous district board members have done in starting somewhere, which was at ground zero. I don't feel this board, without this manager, could have gotten from ground zero to where you are in your little pond. It's not a big pond, but it's starting somewhere for my daughter's future lake.
And I agree with you.
You know what I mean, Mick?
And I agree with you. I think Kurt's
You need to
done
acknowledge that they started from -0. And Mick, I think it's important to us as taxpayers, you need to acknowledge that your manager, the district's manager, got that permit from hours and hours of dedication. And he wasn't paid every single hour of every single day he is dedicated. That's what I'm saying.
It's a long process, and I'm not taking anything away from Kurt as far as what he's accomplished and his staff and the different people here to have gotten the permit to the point that it is now. I think that, yes, definitely deserves a hand for that.
What I'm saying with Kurt, you know, it took Kurt a lot to get this done, and Kurt's done a great job, and he's done what he has with what he's got to do it with. And so we're trying to make it, Kurt, in my eyes, Kurt has gone to the right agencies. He's, you know, done whatever they needed to do. Now he's proved that he can do it, that he's the guy, that he can really do it. So now let's go back and say, okay, you trust us now. Can we please have your permission to go one step better, go a little bit more, and get it done a little quicker? That's what we're asking. And
I think with you being so diplomatically correct, Rich, I think you make sense. I think it's when Mick's aggressive approach puts us as taxpayers a little back of saying, what are you trying to say? You make very good sense in your calm presentation, Rich, and I appreciate that.
And I know I struggled with this thing for a long time
Well, we
myself.
all have struggled.
And I've lived on this lake my whole life. I want to see that mud out of there. I don't know about you guys.
We all agree with that,
So
and we
let's-
had to start
And so
somewhere.
let's try to progress this thing a little quicker, and maybe we can get it done. Let's pull together, get this thing done.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the new equipment and the surplus equipment, is that gonna go out for bid?
is what,
Well, you
it's
mentioned.
what I'd like to do, and maybe I should put this in the form of a motion here, which I will, is I would like to possibly surplus pieces of equipment that we talked about here, and have somebody that's an appraiser of equipment come down and give us, in fact, maybe you can get two of them to come in and give us an appraisal of what these pieces of machinery are worth, and give us an idea what we could sell them for if we cashed them out, or what we might be able to get out of them as a trade-in. Most of them are Cat, which is a good brand, and I think that we probably should get possibly an appraiser from 2 different Cat dealers, maybe one out of Yakima. I think that's where you've been dealing with mainly, NC. Yeah, and I think NC is Yakima and Wenatchee, and Spokane actually has Western States. So I think that I would put it in the form of a motion that we actually have somebody from Western States and we have somebody from NC, whether Yakima or Wenatchee, come down, give us some numbers on these particular pieces of equipment that I just mentioned here in the report, and let us know where we're at. And
No, do we need to put that in motion? Can we just direct them to do that?
no, we need to put them in form of a motion. Western States.
Oh, Western States.
Western States, out of
Is that Cat?
they're Cat dealers. Western States, so we'll get somebody to come from both of those outfits, give us an appraisal, basically a cash type appraisal, so we'll know what they're worth cash wise, and you know what they're, we're gonna put an asking price on them, we probably wanna go a little bit above cash price, and
Somebody's trying.
give us a place to start in with.
Yeah, we'll have to follow our bids, our selling processes and stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, I'd like to go ahead on the pieces of equipment that I mentioned there, which would be the 2 Maroka dump trucks, 1 Cat 924, the small excavator, the Cat roller, one lake harvester, whichever one you want to get rid of there, and that would be it, I guess.
Well, that's for the old stuff to get rid of, but what about the new?
Until we know what the old stuff's worth and what's available out there, we don't know where we're at.
But you'll put, when you go by,
We're gonna shop.
oh, yeah.
You know, we'll get an idea of what it's worth, and then we'll start looking at upgrading here as far as, I don't wanna spend a whole lot extra money, but it's probably gonna take some money just to get back the price that we paid. I mean, like the front end loader, we probably paid a little over $100,000 for that, and it's probably only gonna be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000. So we're probably gonna, in order to get a bigger machine, it's gonna be an older machine obviously, but we'll probably be somewhere in the $75,000 to $100,000 bracket. So there's probably gonna take a little bit of money there to go to a bigger size. It's probably gonna be a little bit older with a few more hours on it, but nevertheless, I think that
In the long run, it's gonna make us money.
yeah, it'll. Kurt?
On the harvesters,
Yeah.
they're 2 different machines, they're not the same machine, they
Right.
do 2 different things.
Well,
Right.
you know, you're
So
the
getting
expert.
rid of
most
one,
things.
so I think that one, I'd like you to leave out of there so we could discuss that
Oh,
before you
Before we
decide to get
surplus it.
rid of one.
okay, so they serve
They
different purposes?
2 different purposes.
Okay, all right. I withdraw the harvester out of there then, if we can scratch that out of there. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering, you know, we've got these very specific permits for the lake right now, and I'm all for what you're talking about, moving as much as possible. I think everybody is. And you keep talking about the cities giving you this and that, but isn't it the Bureau of Reclamation that has to be the entity that says yes, you can do it or not? And the DOE and the DNR, and you're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops there to put heavy machinery in that lake bed. I know for a fact. I've done this, and to modify that permit.
so far I've been talking to the city, they seem to be.
Okay, the city doesn't mean anything because the Bureau has the ultimate.
They mean quite a bit.
Well,
They mean quite a bit. They,
who owns the lake?
the state of Washington.
Bureau of Reclamation claims all the lake. That's the main entity.
No.
Is that not true?
No.
We're gonna follow the law, whatever it takes to make it happen. We're not gonna go out there.
Okay, well, but all I'm saying is, I'm on board with what you're saying, because I think moving, that's what we're all for. But do you realize the hydraulic permits you're gonna have to pull from the federal government to be able to do this? To get actual heavy equipment into the lake and do this? I'm just saying.
You got a 50,000-pound machine that's been sitting out there floating, or most of the time floating.
Well, that's the difference, though, it's floating, it's not making surface contact.
It's also not.
That's a huge difference, and I'm telling you, look at the master shoreline plan, talk to the WDF, talk to the Bureau of Reclamation. I think you're gonna have a lightning there, they're gonna say, yeah.
Well, at least when that light turns on, then we'll take a bright look at it.
Well, I hope it does.
David?
You know, I was up by Banks Lake over the weekend, and I noticed about 5 excavators, backhoes, that they were doing blasting. You couldn't go near, and that's on the lake bottom there where they drained the Banks Lake. And I thought that was part of the Bureau. I mean, somewhere, somebody seems to be able to do that. I know there's a bunch of equipment up there right now, if you drove up there. Just an FYI.
It's not impossible.
That's the feds doing the work.
Well, I wasn't stating it's impossible, I'm just saying that how, this could delay us quite a while, because you might have to do a whole nother environmental impact statement, you might have to, I mean, this could be a very costly endeavor. I'm just trying to say, to think about the whole scope of it and see how big, because we get all this machinery and then it's just parked there. And like you said, you can get all this machinery and make the dredging thing better, but you still have a dewatering problem. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, we'll be working, I think Kurt's already talking about trying to take care of some of the dewatering.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, because it doesn't matter how big your trucks are, if you can only dredge so much.
I think we need to be working together, and
Just give us
keep a common goal here. We're not trying to come in here and just blow this thing apart like a bunch of pool balls. We're trying to make some reasonable ideas about what we can do here, what we can make it better, and we gotta move forward. And I think we're gotta keep the taxpayer in mind here the whole time we're doing it, because right now, what I see is that we accomplished with the dredge was just about a break-even deal, what's coming in and what we took out. So that, if you wanna pass it on to your kids and their kids, that could go down the road that far at the rate we're going right now, and we need to look at something here that's gonna be much more productive, one way or the other. Whether we get the pond, get a bigger pond, and make it so that we can run that dredge.
Right, I would just hate to see this whole thing come to a standstill. And we stop, because
it's not.
It all gets, well, you're already talking about taking the dredge out at this point for the whole year. So what I'm saying is, can we continue on and try to work on those other permits for 2013 instead of saying the dredge goes away or whatever? Because, I mean, at this point, we got equipment we should utilize while.
Let me answer your question real quick. Our permit process is good for 5 years, is that all right? And so we don't have to go back and redo it every year. We're already good for another 5 years.
If you go on lake bed with heavy equipment, you do.
Well, that's a different process.
Well, that's,
Okay,
is that what I'm saying?
we're not, one talk at a time here.
We'll deal with it.
I mean,
Just give us a chance.
let's utilize it.
Let's,
Give us a chance.
you got your hand up there, this will be the last
I
one.
just want to ask a question, and I'm really not clear on this, but I believe I read in the paper one time that the dredge was only really working for 4 months. Was that right, Kurt, how long was the dredge working? How long did it?
Function?
Uh-huh.
We started in July and ended in the end of November, but we lost 5.5 weeks
Okay,
out of that during September
okay. So we really didn't dredge we really don't know what that dredge can do. I'm just asking that question.
We lost
Just 4 months?
Let me ask, 5.5 weeks for what?
when that went down.
It was sunk.
You had it repaired in 3 days, I think, you had it back
Yeah,
up
we had
again.
2 weeks period where we had to wait to even get certified to go back functional again, then we had repairs to do. So by the time you got it back going 100%, we were 4.5 to 5.5 weeks.
I never seen the pond, never anything less than clear full. I don't know, anyway, we're not gonna argue things with that.
But I just
Past
wanted-
is,
I
past is
I
past.
reported that earlier, so.
Yeah,
I
past is
want
past.
to know that it just doesn't seem fair to base what the dredge can or can't do on just a
Even if-
3-month
even if
period.
it- Even if the 5 or 6 months, or the 5 or 6 weeks it was down, I mean, go out there and walk around, take a look. Let your eyes be pretty good.
Well, I thought that we had people, an outside,
Do you believe your
government
eyes? or do you
agency.
believe-
I believe statistics.
I believe, I'm
I
gonna
believe,
show me
I believe
that.
logic, so,
I'm gonna show you.
Okay, here we are carrying a conversation again. Let's move on. I would like to ask that we hire an engineer. We've cut all engineering out, Kurt. I don't know if you got that out of the minutes from before, but we've stopped all engineering because of the fact that this last year, or the year before that, we've been into the engineers for over hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I see no reason at this point in time to continue paying these people. And I think that the easiest way is just to say, stop right now, and come to the board if you've got any engineering. And I'd like to propose that we hire an engineer to go out here and survey the pile that we got and get us a yardage number on it. So when we go to the city and start talking, we know how many yards that we have there in that pile. And I put that in the form of a motion that we hire a engineering firm, local engineering firm, to go out there and take a quick, we're probably talking $200. $200 to $300. They would be taking a yardage estimate of the pile that has been dredged out of the lake.
There are issues. We've been working off the original approved budget. There are commitments that have been made in the last few months, which we can discuss and talk about. It's not major ones, but they need to be completed. They are agreements. So,
Now, when you're talking about agreements, you're talking about with,
well, we're moving forward on the dewatering pond, which requires the engineer and the biologist to do that's involved in this. And when we get into these permits, they're gonna require these biologists, as you're gonna realize as we move along. Those other agencies aren't gonna accept my answer or your answer. They want professional third party in there.
I've got people on my advisory board that are engineers. They are biologists. They are a number of things, and I think that these people have agreed to work for free. So that's why I say, put a hold on anything that you've got going there right now as much as you possibly can. If you've got an agreement, then we'll go ahead and honor the agreement. But let's chop it as quickly as we can here.
Okay. On that advisory committee, are they accepting all the liabilities and everything too? They're looking for free?
Well, if we can get our permits, they're engineers and everything. I don't know what liability that you're expecting these other people, because if they have a liability, they come out here and tell you that you're gonna get 600 or 300,000 done in 6 years' time, and you've gotten 5,000 done in 1 year. Who's next on the line here? I don't know. I'm just saying that I've got people that I feel are much more qualified than what we've been hiring, that are willing to work for nothing. And I think that is going to be a big deal as far as our total bottom line, and giving the taxpayers a good part of their money back here. Yeah.
At some point, would you be able to give us a list of these qualified people that seem to want to be able to do all this work for free? Because I live in a
I will be, soon as we get the authority to go ahead and have the advisory board. I mentioned their names last time, most of them. I've added one on since that point in time.
But I mean, a list of who you actually are going to have on the committee, what they're going to do, and they are going to work for free.
Yeah, they are going to work for free. That's exactly right.
They're
No,
amazing people.
They are local people that want to see it happen.
Yeah.
And I have got high expectations of this committee.
Very good. I'd sure like to see the list though, because I would like to make sure there's no conflict of interest here.
Yeah, no.
That's my.
There will not, well, how do you have a conflict of interest when they're not even paying them? But, go ahead.
well, coming from a family of engineers, I know there's big liability. That if you say okay on something and you're a senior engineer, and you put your stamp on it and send it to the state and it fails, there's huge liability. And if these guys are gonna work for free, they're gonna have to carry great big bonding and licensing and huge insurance on them. And who's gonna pay for that?
We'll deal with that when we get there. They're already carrying most of this stuff here, so we're asking for their opinions. And as far as guaranteeing a lot of this stuff. I don't think we're getting any guarantee out of the people that we got there now.
They put their stamp on
Obviously,
it.
if they're guaranteeing what they said, boy, get your out here and show us what's happening here, because it's, they're so far off base that they're not even coming close.
Are these civil engineers, are they, what kind of engineers are they?
We'll get to it.
Environmental?
They are, when you see the list, read their qualifications.
No, who are the people that aren't doing a good job for you? Are they environmental engineers, are they
Well,
Dredge engineer.
the dredge engineer? Okay.
that's, what I see most of the money going to is the dredge engineers that have been hundreds of thousands of dollars paid to these outfits. And I'm sorry, but I wish I had more faith in them. Anyway, moving on. I'd like to move into the budget at this time, proposed budget.
Before you do that, may I discuss the director's issues that I talked about earlier? I would like to move to renew or reconsider a motion that was made last Wednesday. Had to do with expanding the board of directors to 5 from 3. I did not start this. I received a call Thursday that this was in existence. I was given it Friday. It says electors petition to increase the number of Moses Lake Irrigation and Rehabilitation District Directors to 5. The undersigned electors, being 18 years of age or older, citizens of the United States, residents of the state of Washington, and holding title to land within the MLIRD, do hereby request that the Board of Directors of the MLIRD submit the question of whether to increase the number of directors at MLIRD from 3 to 5 to the electors at a regular or special district election pursuant to RCW 8703-080. And it requires 20 signatures. There are 30 on here. So as I understand the RCW, all it takes is 20 signatures, and it directs this board to put it on the ballot at a special or regular election.
I would so move that we put it at the next regular district's election.
I agree with that.
Discussion?
Discussion.
None.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that'll be coming up at the next regular election. We've got a special election. We've got a special election that will be taking place between now and then, but I do not want to cloud the issue. So we'll be taking it to the next regular one, which will be next December, a year from today almost. Or from this December.
What special election? What special election?
The election that Rich made the motion to have happen before the end of September, which is going to put on the ballot, giving the people the assessment, lowering it from $1 down to 75 cents and then down to 50 cents. So that,
We're gonna bring that up at a special election?
that'll be a special election that is going to take place between now and the end of September. The way that motion was made.
Why would we pay for a special election when we can then have it at the regular election in December? Makes no sense.
I want to make sure that this, what I'd like to see have it happen is the fact that if we could get the RCWs changed, this would be a great time to come out here and try and open up a new system for voting here. This would give us a chance to do it before we actually got into doing it for an election of an officer. But his motion was to have it done by the end, so that you can't wait until the end of December and then have it go into effect the immediate year of. So this way we can let our assessors know that this is the steps that we'll be taking if it passes. If it doesn't pass, then I guess we're back to the dollar. I guess at this point in time, we'll be putting both of them on the ballot, so leave it up to the choice of the voters. But that'll be a special election, and I do not want to cloud that issue with this. So this will come up in the general election next December, And if it passes, at that point in time, we start looking for a 5-person, and the election for these other 2 people will be taking place at the next general election a year from that. And so, if we go from a 3 to a 5, at the end of a little less than 2 years, is when that would actually be voted in. And can we go ahead and give this to somebody here?
I would recommend the board direct staff, secretary, to confirm that you have the requisite number of electors that have signed the petition, just to make sure it's valid. I believe it requires 20, but just like a petition for candidacy,
Right.
you have to confirm that they are electors.
Right. You can do that for us? Great. All right. Ron, do you have anything else?
No, other than just when we start the budget, I mentioned that Kurt has some information he needs to share with us.
Sure. Let's go ahead and get started. Kurt, you obviously had a day or two to look at it.
Well, not a day or two, but I just got back in my seat this morning. I did look at it, not real in depth, but a few things caught my eye I just want to hit on, because I'm not real clear where you're going with this, because like the 1986 Peterbilt, you cut the fuel down to $100. That's our main tractor for hauling equipment. You can't even fire it up for $100. So there's just some weird things. Also, advertising was cut down to $3,000. That won't even cover the boundary issues that we're dealing with. Just some real odd numbers I'm seeing.
What would the boundary numbers be in the budget, in the advertising budget?
Well, you're gonna be advertising anybody that comes in for a petition that you're not charging them for. Any meetings that we're having, all that stuff is advertisements and those costs. Overall, my big concern with this is not that we're amending the budget, is that this amending budget, I do not believe meets our assessment formula. So this is not gonna meet the auditors. By moving these numbers, I mean, there's a major formula it takes to come up with operation expenses and all these different budget items, where you've moved operation expenses to equipment purchases or projects, where we've moved projects investments to $631. We're only allowed 25 cents, which this is a 40-cent item now, which it needs to be looked at more in depth. I don't believe that it fits our assessment formula that's been approved by the Attorney General. So I have some concerns there.
Well, I think as we look down through here, obviously we put a star by some of them there that I realize that you have no control over, and we put a star by them. There's a few items that you feel that we need to bounce up a little bit. We do need to come up with some money at the end here. Like I say, if we get a big hit on this refund money, we better have enough money to cover it. I realize that we've cut payroll considerably, but this year I don't think we'll be doing the dredging, and I think that we can be cutting back quite a bit on some of the help that we have here. As far as one of the things that we're looking at, and I mentioned it in the mission statement, is putting a mobile home down in Conley Park, and hiring, contracting a park ranger to have a 24-hour watch down there. Obviously, he's not going to be there every 24 hours of the day, but I think that it would make a big difference on on keeping that park open, and I think we can do it with less money than what we're spending right now.
On that one, Nick, I see you've crossed out our water main and well approval. You're not gonna get a permit in there, we haven't got approval on that well, we have no water source for that mobile home. Well approved out there. You're not even gonna get a permit till that's done. And we've been trying to get that for 2 years. And we've taken the funding for that, to
Yeah.
finish that up this year, to put the mobile home in.
Well, county park, that was the water now. He had 85,000 there, and I don't know what it's gonna take to approve a permit on a well.
It's not a permit, it's a water source approval.
Okay, so what are you thinking?
We have engineering, we have all the piping, we have to have all that approved. We've done the testing. We have engineers that's going through the state approval process. So it's gonna take that to get the piping and that in. We don't have any equipment. We had a well house, we don't have any equipment in it. Period.
Well,
And this is a public well. It's not-
these are some of the things, Kurt, that we need to sit down and work it out. I don't think it's gonna take no 85,000 to hook up a well, get the approval of it. But something like that, if you want to, we can put a star there and.
I'm just telling you, though, I have concerns with this. I'm not saying that I disagree, but there's reasons and how we came up with the original approved budget.
Yeah.
Which, Rich, you were one of them that approved it and approved all of our pay raises, and then you turn around and cut salaries and stuff. So I've got some mixed feelings and mixed messages coming from you. So, yeah, as a manager, I'm concerned, and I'm concerned about this and it meeting what we're supposed to be accountable for, and then that we've been accused of not being accountable for, and getting approval in the audits. This won't meet an audit. It won't. So,
And you're saying that.
here's an assessment formula that's been advertised in the paper. We explained this. Chris can go into it further. This budget does not meet that formula. Chris can go.
That's for the assessment, huh? You're explaining how you assess the money there, that has nothing to do
That
with the budget.
does have to do with the budget.
Regardless, huh?
There's certain things that we can fix on this.
Yeah, we're not,
That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, I have to break in here. Mr. Chairman, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean regardless? That's kind of, there's a formula they're coming up with here. And I guess what he's saying is, I understand what you're saying too.
that is
but
how you got the assessment.
Perhaps I might jump in here a little bit.
Please do.
That article is based on what I wrote and what was submitted to the auditor's office and approved by the auditor's office for our assessment authority. And why our assessment authority relates to the budget is we've assessed what in gross amounts to 1.4 per year, I believe, in total assessment. Runs out to about $1 per. A certain amount of that, as per that assessment authority, has to be used for particular items. For instance, we're allowed to assess for an expense fund. The expense fund cannot be used for capital improvements. It can't even be used for acquisition of new equipment. It has to be used for operating and maintenance of existing. And so if we start shifting too much money to acquisition, for instance, just as an example, so that there, you do the math and there's no way we could afford it out of the other funds and we must be drawing money out of that expense fund, that's where we could get in trouble a little bit there. Not a little bit, we would have exceeded our authority. Now, portions of our assessment, the 25 cents per the surplus fund, those things have almost no ties to them. We can use them for just about anything, but other portions we can't. So I think what Kurt's saying is we just need to make sure that we're not dipping into these restricted funds as we're creating this budget. So some caution's appropriate.
Sounds good. Well, I think that we can proceed. I think that this is not carved in stone. far as the payroll, I'd like to see us try and work within them ranges there, what we've got set up for it. And it's not that much different from the year before. It's not that much different from the year before. And we're not gonna be doing dredging this year. We'll be cutting back on a lot of our projects. So as far as I'm concerned, what you've increased the budget by this year, we put it back to what we pretty close, a little below where we had it the year before. And I think that we need to start pulling that part of it back. We need to start planning here, depending on how much of this refund is gonna come. We need to start planning on that, and I think that's, we better be saving some money to do that with.
We have to pay that for it.
No, you're you, yeah.
Okay, I am, a person from Block 40, so I have no
Go
vote
ahead and tell us your
or
name.
anything. Lori Odegaard from Block 40. I do not vote on this. I'm not involved with the voting. But I am an educator in our community, and I'm involved with the Water Quality Institute, and on the third page of this, on the very bottom of the budget, I have a big concern about this, because that budget has been cut to 0. And I'm concerned about this because I have not been involved in this voting or the political jockeying that goes on at this meeting, and quite honestly, I'm appalled. But I do need to voice this because there's been a lot of negative things said in this room and in this community that definitely impact what's going on with the MLIRD. On the negative direction for the board, negative direction for our community. And I want you to know that the youth in our community see this, and that you keep talking. We want this lake to be here for my kids and your kids and everybody's kids, not just people who live on the lake, okay? And it's really important that this group does something good, okay? Good. And this is one thing that this has been reaching out to the entire community and to the youth of our community, and it's about science. And this, I'm a biologist, okay? This is what this mission statement for this board should be, is the biology of this lake. The ability to keep this lake healthy, the ability to manage the lake so that the wildlife in the lake and around the lake is healthy so that we can enjoy it as a recreational area for our youth and our community, for bringing in tourists to, make Moses Lake seem like a great place to be. And, I'm not involved in any of this jockeying around of all this political bullshit. That's what I say. Okay, but what I do care about is what this is about for our lake and the ecology of our lake and for our youth and for our community. And this Water Quality Institute that you just nuked, okay, in this budget has reached out to kids. It's served well over 90 kids a year. Okay, we have an elementary program, we have a junior high program, we have a high school program which brings kids in to teach them about the ecology of the lake, to teach them about the plants, the wildlife, the fish, the water quality, all the chemical testing. Kids are doing real science on our lake, okay? They're doing testing, they're evaluating. In science classrooms, they do kind of pretend science. You create science projects for them, and this is really one chance where they can get out and do real science. And it's a great outreach. And these kids are learning a lot, and they're applying it, they're taking it into helping them in their careers. We've been offering scholarships for the last 5 years. That scholarship money has not come from the board, it's come from community donors, people in the community who are donating money because they feel investing in the youth and in the program that the MLIRD is trying to do is valuable and important, okay? And so I really have a problem with nuking this because it's one of the most positive things that's coming out of this. And I just wonder, I would like the board to consider it.
I would like to see you as an educator, go to the school district and ask them to join MLIRD paying taxes. And that would put a big tax back into our fund so we can afford to do this right now.
Yeah, but this program of reaching out to these students is not about the school district. Any kid, not from Moses Lake High School, it could be from any kid who's homeschooled, any kids who's at Christian school. We serve all those kids, so this is not a school district issue, and I'm not representing the school district in any way here. I'm representing kids, okay, and education and outreach. And I want you to know that there are kids that are involved in this. They have gone and spoken. The kids that have been scholarship winners and kids that are learning this, the high school kids go to the Kiwanis and talk about what they've learned. They go to different lunch groups and community groups around promoting the positive parts of this organization.
Is the school district not interested in promoting that?
I don't know.
They
The
promote
school
biology
district
every
is
day.
not involved in
I went to
this.
this high school too, and we never got
We're not
that
involved in
opportunity.
But isn't it the mission of the
You have
irrigation
to-
district to
you
do
have to-
things like that?
You have to understand.
Yeah, it's just a summer institute. That's exactly what it's called. It
Okay,
has nothing to
You have to
do.
understand, it costs the district a lot of money to do that. And for the few of students, there's a lot of students in our biology program, a lot of students. And the percentage that we're actually getting to participate in the program is very, very minuscule compared to all the students that are in the science project, in the schools. right?
No, the students,
also-
we advertise
No.
it, no.
Just a moment, let me finish. These kind of things are in textbooks.
Oh, man.
I teach out of textbooks.
I'm sorry that
Oh,
you did
well, I'm
that.
sorry, that's archaic education.
I also know we got a limited budget here, and we got to pull some strings.
So you want this to be a nice, healthy, good place for our kids and for them to
don't
understand,
know
but you're
that-
going to
I
pull the
don't
rug
know
right out
that-
from underneath them.
That's not a
Because
rug.
they're the ones that are gonna promote the health of your lake. They're your future there. They're gonna educate others. We teach water quality in our schools all the time. However, and we test from all different parts of your lake
Were you
when we
doing
do
it
that
before?
within our
Were you doing it
classes.
before this program?
Oh, you betcha.
Then why would you stop?
I'm not stopping doing
We're
that,
not
but I don't
stopping
think
either.
that,
We're
yes, you
stopping.
are, you gave it a big
We're
zero
stopping
on your
supporting
budget. You
I
gave it a
think
big
we've
zero,
got
so
kind of-
I'm asking you to reevaluate that and think about the importance to America's Moses Lake's youth, because I think that you are putting a big black eye on this district if you do that, because this is a positive thing, one of the few positive things that you can outreach with.
Yes.
You've got to stop and look though at what our scope is of what we can do and what we can't do. I'm not saying we can't do this, but on the other hand, we are a irrigation district and we do have certain guidelines of what we should be trying to follow, and sometimes we stretch it a little further than we should probably, as far as this Water Institute. You show an $8,000 number there as far as the budgeted item, but as far, I went back and looked through the items that, the instructions, the t-shirts, the time it takes our staff and everything, and I think that number is probably half of what it's really costing us to get the job done. And when it comes right down to all the staff time and everything that's involved with what's happening there. And so you gotta take a look at it, and if we're cutting, we're not necessarily gonna positively do away with it, but on the other hand, it's not gonna be a budgeted item at this point in time. And I think that we're just gonna have to pull our horns back in a lot of these areas, because
I think that you've had a lot of sponsors for this to help with that, because they like the idea that this is happening in our community and that this organization is reaching out and you're getting sponsors, but when you pull your name off from that and just ask the community to sponsor it,
yeah. Well,
they're gonna
let's-
say,
let's
"What's
look at
wrong
it
with
on
that
on a
picture?"
lower key. Let's
Anyway,
look at
I'm
it-
asking you to reevaluate that,
Yeah,
please.
okay, let's look at it on a lower key, and as time goes on here, possibly we can put a little money back into it, but I don't think that we wanna take the staff time that we've involved, we don't wanna hire the people that have came, that have been high dollar cost to us. I think we gotta look at whether we give them t-shirts. I think we gotta look at a lot of things that we have done here in the past, and start looking at ways that we can make it happen and still happen cheaper. So we did pull the money out of it, but let's take a look and see what can happen. We were talking one other item here, and let me go ahead and bring it up here first. Is the fact that the Lakeview, we talked about that last time, and we got into quite a bit of discussion about it, and I'd kind of like to maybe put a compromise out there for what it's worth. What would your thinking be if we 2 times a year we send out the Lakeview, and 2 times a year maybe we put it in the newspaper and keep it lower cost that way? And I think that we can cover both things and take less staff time to get it done. We can still have a nice looking brochure that comes out at least twice a year, maybe spring and fall, keeping it away from election time so it doesn't look like it's trying to be an election policy here. But I think that in the meantime then we could likewise put it in the newspaper and get a lot of the stuff accomplished, the same thing there, and
Audience asked last meeting about the cost and how much it would cost to put it in the newspaper, and you didn't know.
Well,
They asked about how much it cost to produce the Lakeview, and you didn't know. So you stated that you would find out and you would bring it back to them. And so do you have those figures for us?
Well, I'll tell you what I come up with. I went through all the checks that were written last time, and I found it very difficult to find out what was going to Lakeview, what was going to the Columbia Basin Herald, what was going to the Columbia Basin Journal, what was going to designers, the whole works. I know that Julia's had her hands full this week, and I have not asked her to try and make a determination on what that's costing us, but I know that you don't put that out for nothing, you don't put it in the mail for nothing, and that's why I'm thinking that maybe twice a year would be a compromise here, and
I still think we need to find out what it costs before we make a decision.
well, I got a pretty good idea what it costs, and I'm guessing that you're probably talking in the neighborhood of probably at least $10,000 to put that brochure out.
They asked you last meeting not to guess.
I'm not guessing.
just said,
I said I
I'm
went
guessing.
through. I said
That's
I
what
went.
you just said.
Do you know how much it cost?
No, I don't. I think we need to be informed as to what it costs. I know what it costs to put ads in the newspaper, and I shared that last meeting. But I don't know what the Lakeview costs. We need to find out.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, I don't wanna dump it on Julie. She's got her hands full, and, both of the people in the office have got their hands full right at this point in time, and I do not, wanna dump it on them any further. So, at this point in time, I'd just like to go ahead and make that as a proposal, and, let's go for 2 and 2. And Julie, you guys
May I
are-
make a comment that, in finding out the cost of it, since I've done that sort of thing, I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
But I know that when you use that really heavy paper,
Right,
that comes out on, because we are in the irrigation district and we do receive one.
right.
I'm amazed when I get it. I'm like, wow, this is spendy, because I've contracted out to have high gloss done and I know what it costs.
Yeah.
You can have much lighter paper that will save you tons of money, still have a nice product.
Yeah.
That might be something to look at, just to save some money.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to look further at it. I don't want to get into an argument here tonight on whether we need it or we don't need it. I thought I'd throw that out as a point of consideration at this point in time. And if you want, we'll just leave it open and not even vote on it at all at this point in time. But when we get more time, we look into it a little better. We can go ahead and get you some numbers here. But the numbers are real hard to say because of the fact that the office help has to put all this together. And they got to take pictures. They got to go out here and arrange it. They can give it to an artist to go ahead and put it all together. But on the other hand, they still got to furnish most of that stuff, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of time. And
I'll volunteer. I'll be on your committee to put together that pamphlet. I'll
Well-
take pictures and I'll write up articles. I have an English degree. It'll be beautiful.
you're going to have to talk with Kurt, you're going to have to talk with Julie, and make sure that you're wanted in the office. I could volunteer to do the same thing, and I'm sure they probably wouldn't want me there, quite honestly. So anyway, let's drop it and take it into consideration, and we'll keep moving on with the budget here. Any other? Kurt, like I say, we're not positively limiting you to any one of these items. We'd like to try and have that much carryover roughly when it's all said and done. $100 for the Peterbilt truck may be under what it's gonna take. But on the other hand, I don't know what all you're gonna be moving around for equipment. If you're not moving the dredge, if you're not moving, a lot of this stuff, it may not get out of the yard very often, quite honestly. So, don't think that, if you fill the tank up, it's probably gonna still be half full next fall.
Well, we all harvesters and everything with it. So,
Okay.
I mean, it just,
I know what you're saying,
it costs more than that to keep the battery charged. Fire it up once in a while.
well, plug it
Diesel's not
in,
cheap.
plug it in, so we'll put it.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know exactly. You had, just 1 minute, Norm. You had a trailer coming for that, do I understand, is that?
I haven't touched base with Chris and them on that.
Okay, so you don't know where you're at as far as that part
I
goes?
can't report on that.
Okay, all right. Norm, you had your hand up?
Just before I got off the board, over 10 years practically,
Yeah?
we had the pipeline going across the lake, check the TV camera, or that goes across.
Put a camera in the pipe and run it?
Yeah, has that been done in the last few years?
Are you talking about the pump station pipe?
Yeah.
It has not been done since I've been here.
I would suggest that you do that because there's 50 cubic feet per second of water going through that thing. And if there's a crack developing it, it could cause a lot of damage.
Big boy.
Who did that, Norm? Is that something that you had hired to do?
It'd
Huh?
be in the minutes.
There's several camp companies that can do that.
Can do that.
We talked about that about 3-4 years ago, and possibly even running a city blinder. And the cost was not prohibitive at that time, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe it's.
Sound like good insurance.
Okay, like I say, there's nothing in this budget that cannot change. Bring it back to the board, let's take another look at it. These are estimates of what we hope we can accomplish. You'll notice that we have 90,000 in there for a mobile home under the category that was the well approval. And what we have in mind there is going out for a new double-wide mobile home. I'd like to have you, this budget's approved here tonight, possibly take and go to the different mobile home sales lots in town.
Is there a proven well out there?
No, we don't have a well yet. Couldn't you wait on that a month?
You can't
It'll
get
take a while to get it.
put a mobile home anywhere if you can't get a proven well.
Well,
They just- it's a
obviously,
dead-
we must have water out there.
You have to have water. If you don't have water, you're at a
What have we got
complete
for the
impasse.
drinking water out there, anything?
The water has been under enforcement, the well has, part of ecology, 4 years before I ever got here. It's too close to the tanks, and it's a very small, it's only 50, 60 feet deep. It's not a good well. We've gone through 3 pumps since I've been here because it's stuck in sand. We've been trying to get, that's why we punched the other well. We're trying to get that all approved through Department of Ecology. And once we do, we still got piping, like I said, to install. I don't see us being able to, my question is, even if we do this, I don't see us being able to get this in place for this year's season and have it functional.
So you're saying there would be no drinking water down there, or you?
Well, we have approval to use it for the bathrooms itself right now, as long as that tests out. The minute it doesn't test out, we have to close the bathroom.
But it's not possible, right?
It's not possible at all.
And you're
unless
not
you
gonna
have
be
a
able to
proven
hook
well.
up anything else to it.
It's not even in the cards.
So I'm just saying, there's,
Yeah. Well, let's see what we can do to get our well moving quickly here as far as getting the permits done. I guess the permits, I'm not
we're
talking.
punched, we're done with the well, there's a pump down there, we just have to get everything approved. We don't have any piping in it, we're in the process with the engineers right now, we're trying to get that done, but Department of Ecology, you're,
What,
4 or 5 months out, just getting approved before we can even go forward and putting in anything.
So we're basically ready to go other than just approval, what you're telling us.
Approval and equipment, then we put the equipment in.
Okay. And putting equipment in what, a month maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that's, that part. As long as I got the help to do it.
So, I mean, towards the end of the year, we should see water. I mean, we should have water.
Well, theoretically. Counting on
That's
Department
all
of
we can
Law.
do, that's all we can do, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
So then would it not be appropriate to take out the 90,000 mobile home and put back in the 85,000 for the water main?
I don't think we need that much for bringing that water down the hill.
Well, there's electrical and everything in that.
Yeah, I've put in a lot of wells and a lot of things and,
What do you think engineering's gonna cost us?
I don't know. I don't know exactly how much it's gonna cost because it's
No,
all gonna
we
be
can-
requirements on DOE. and
No,
what
we're
they're
gonna do the
provide.
plumbing and the electrical
We will do all
ourselves,
that.
all in-house, right? And so, basically, our only big expense is gonna be the engineering.
Well, you got equipment, you got variable speed drives and things like that. I mean, electrical equipment could cost $45,000-$50,000 for the equipment.
how big a pump you put in?
It's got a 20 volt in there right now. It's designed for up to an 80.
We sure would put an 80.
Not right now, until the demand required. We have a 20 in there.
You got a 20 in there already, so that's already in place.
Yes, if it's approved.
I see.
They have to approve the pump and everything. There's more to it than that. I'm not,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll have to wait till I get some numbers then.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a quick question about this mobile home and what it's gonna cost to put the mobile home and do all the work and to do the stuff on the well. I know that this well stuff can get very expensive very fast, and I can see him spending $50,000 to $75,000 before you can blink an eye on that well. And you're talking about $90,000 for a mobile home, and then you're talking about contracting with somebody else. Have you done a cost analysis to see what it's gonna cost you in dollars to put all this together, and what's the payback? I mean, how many years is this thing gonna pay back? Are we looking at 5, 10, 15 years?
3.
How do you know that unless you have a number?
I got a number
What's the
here,
number?
and I have a number of what we'd be paying a park ranger to come and live there.
Well, what is the number that's gonna cost to put this project on? I'm not disagreeing that it shouldn't be done, but when I look at a project, I look at, like, if I winterize my house or I do something, I look at what the payback is. If it doesn't pay me back in 5 years, it's not worth my time or my
No,
money.
that's why I say this,
So,
they got a 3-year payback on it.
where's the number?
$90,000?
Is there a number?
A ranger.
Oh, Ranger, not the $90,000 for the,
Well, perhaps you could share that with us then.
Yeah, well, we're talking, by 90,000, I'm figuring that is the setup, all said and done. This is a mobile home, double-wide mobile home that would be setting up on the upper bench there, and we would hire, by contract, a park ranger to come in there. He would be paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000, $1,200 a month. Compared to what we're spending on that park right now, that's not gonna take very long to pay for it, so. And he would be a 24-hour person there. He is not gonna be there 24 hours, obviously. At times, he's gonna want vacation time, and he's gonna want some time off if he goes to work or whatever. But we'd have to watch who we're hiring, how much time they can give us, and whether they do small maintenance or they do strictly security. That's gonna be a thing that we're gonna have to look at when we start hiring
so
somebody.
they'll water and they'll mow and they'll do the spraying
Not
and all of
necessarily.
that.
No, not necessarily. We'll still be probably hiring out, I mean, you can only expect so much for a guy for his.
So with the, I just
for
want to
his-
clarify this, because I teach English, not math. $90,000
Uh,
and for the mobile home,
and everything.
and $12,000 or $15,000 a year. So how much are you paying a person to, in 3 years, you'll be paying, is somebody making $60,000 a year taking care of the park?
No.
How much do you think we're
No.
spending right now on people down there, the period of time
I
that it's
don't know,
open?
tell me, because this is big. This is, let's say it's 15,000, that's 30, 45, and 90, and help me with it. $135,000 you say we're gonna get back in 3 years.
Yeah.
135,000? Okay, because who are you going to eliminate? What are you gonna eliminate?
Well, we'll be taking some of the help that's probably down in the park at this point. in
Part-time
time.
help that we're hiring
And the
now.
part-time help. that
And you
we're
spend
hiring.
that much on part-time help?
You look at the wages.
Well, I mean, how
there.
much do you spend on the
Now,
part-time
you
help?
gotta remember, we're actually gonna open the park up for longer hours, longer time of the season, so we're all gonna benefit from this even more.
But
So
you're
it's
not
gonna be a lot
looking at all
cheaper.
the, I get the 90,000, and I may have to disagree with that, because I don't know what you're buying. You say 90,000 off the top of your head, but I don't see a number. But you're not taking into consideration that Mr. Carpenter has just said that this is gonna cost a lot of money to develop the well, and I know that costs a lot of money. You just don't go get
That
that.
has very little to do with mobile home park. That's gotta be done.
It's
with
all
the
part of
park.
the expense.
Well, no, that's gonna be done despite the mobile home.
But you cut it before it was explained. This is frustrating.
How much actual money will you invest in this project, and what is it gonna cost you, and what is
Which
the
project are
payback?
we talking about? We talking the mobile home with the park ranger? Or the well? Or the-
It's all gonna be together.
The well's already in.
It's not.
It's not approvable yet.
It's not
I mean,
approved.
It's not in, you got it.
Well, can we ask Kurt, where, of the 90,000 or whatever it's budgeted, have you already done a lot of that work
No, the 85 was budgeted for it,
That's what I'm saying.
to finish it?
to finish it.
So, I don't know, man, 101's two.
Well,
I'm not real good at math, that was that good means, but I mean,
My
still.
question, when the pump's already in the well and it's ready to turn on the pump, I'm assuming it's.
Has it
ready
been
to-
tested for GPMs already? Do we know?
It's,
Kurt,
we
you
just
know-
went through the quality testing and the pumping, there's not even a electrical box.
There you go,
It's
there
a
you go.
gutted building.
Are you tying this mobile home into a gravity, or has that been determined whether you gotta go
I have
pressure
no
or the
idea about
existing?
I have no idea.
Oh my God, there you just opened a whole can of worms right there.
There's no
You're gonna
way
go-
they'll
You're
let
gonna
us
have
hook
a
up to the
pressure
septic.
system that close to the lake, you're gonna open a can of worms you're not gonna be able to put back in.
Well, there's the sewage system.
What's the total
That sewage
project?
system,
That's
no
what I
one-
wanna know.
We'll take it one day at a time when that time gets here. When we start looking at,
No idea.
when we start looking at what it's gonna take to get that water over the hill and turn the power on, we're gonna be working with you. We're not gonna abandon you.
Incredible.
And we're more than willing to make it all happen, but we gotta stay on scope here, and we gotta make sure everything keeps happening.
Well, it would be nice to work with you before this stuff comes out.
Well,
Yes.
You're kind of tying my hands as a manager, but.
Well, that's not all bad.
I beg your pardon?
I say that is not all bad when we're tying your hands as a manager, to make you come back to the board. When you're talking about spending $85,000 to get the water from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, I question that doesn't have to have a second look taken at it. So, Kurt, we need to look at who we're hiring. I think we need to look at what we're doing. I just think that we're over-engineering most everything we've done here, and I think that we need to just get it done.
But get what done? And just-
Yeah.
Are we gonna do the well work, or are we going to go buy a trailer?
Well, I think we can do both.
You can't buy the trailer until you get the proven well. They will not even sell you the trailer until you have a building permit for a specific spot.
Well, let's get the world.
Flat out. Done. Well, that's what I'm talking. There's a lot of stuff like Kurt's saying. They haven't even got the electrical run to it yet.
I understand.
Then you have to worry about the septic, and that septic thing could become huge.
Like that hasn't yet, so let's not.
Well, you're talking a gravity system as opposed to a pressure system. Being that close to the lake and with the septic that's down there right now, you could be talking, you could get into the 50,000 or better range just for a septic system that's approved. You might possibly have to go to a water treatment facility type system.
Well,
I don't know.
We've got people out there.
I know just a little bit about this, and I got friends too, and I've done a little of this work myself.
Let's not jump in the hole.
I'm just telling you.
Oh, I know. I mean, we've got people right here.
Well,
that
you're
can
buying a mobile
probably-
home yet, you don't even have a building permit.
Haven't bought a mobile home either.
Yeah.
So you just said 90,000 buy a mobile home.
I think we need to go ahead and start looking at what we can get for our money.
Get
And
numbers.
start.
Hard numbers, not
Yeah.
these numbers.
That's
These-
right. I think we need
This
to
is
start
right.
looking. Norm, you had your hand up and Jim, you'll follow in.
You looked into the possibility of just giving the guy a site in exchange for
Free rent.
closing the gates at night and a few odds and ends, to put his own mobile home out there.
Well, I think we couldn't ask near as much of him. I mean, he could live there at that point in time, but if we could furnish him a home, pay his utilities, and give him pretty much of a place that he could live without having to dig into his pocket to do it. I think you could get some pretty high quality person there that'd be more than willing to take care of it and do a good job for us. And I just don't think we want to let anybody bring in just any old mobile home and set it there. I think we gotta have the right unit moved in there to look right, and
If you're talking insurance liabilities, it's just somebody else, it's just.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's not, yeah.
Jim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to speak as a taxpayer. I'm not an employee or a school teacher. I'm here to make
You live on the
sure
lake.
that our tax dollars are spent properly.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to look at what the board is saying is a working process. They can't give you specifics about the mobile home or the wells, but I think we need to have an open mind and look at these, look at what they're doing here in a positive way and work together and not snicker and not, fight amongst one another. But I think there's some really good ideas that are happening here, so we need to give them a chance. And I know Mick personally, and I've seen a lot of the work he's done. He's very, very qualified, and I have a lot of faith in him. So I just would like to say that I endorse what's going on, and I appreciate the fact that they're trying to save us some money as a taxpayer.
Well, thank you. I think that one thing we've got to keep in mind here is the fact that we do have some things out here that we want to make happen. One of the things that I hear from the taxpayer out there is the fact that they would like to see that park open a lot more. Some of the fishermen, they come there wanting to go out there at 5 o'clock in the morning during the spring or whenever fishing season opens, and they go out there and it's not open, and they come back at 9 o'clock and it's still not open. 10 o'clock they finally get it open, and then they don't dare stay out very late at night because it's going to be locked back up on them again. And this is the kind of thing that if we're going to have a park, we need to have that thing open as many hours as we can possibly keep it open. When the ice is on the lake, when there's ice going down the hill, no, we need to lock it up and not create a problem there. But I don't know of anybody that want to go out there fish when there's ice on the lake. So at that point in time, yeah, we'd probably be shutting it down come December and January and maybe February. But at least the rest of the time, when there's no ice on the lake, I see no reason that thing couldn't stay open 24 hours a day and let the fishermen come out there and get there at daylight in the morning and stay after twilight at night without having to worry about being either locked out or locked in. But thank you for your comments. Well, I would like to approve the budget, the amended budget, and with the thought in mind that we don't have to 100% follow it, but it's going to give us some money at the end here that we will be able to cover our tail if we get a lot of claims going back on us. We will be able to possibly look at some land. We're looking at land out here that we'll be getting out of this office possibly and moving to another location. So that likewise is part of what we're showing there, going into the tail end of it there, that would help make that happen. Sure.
Couldn't we kill two birds with one stone and build an office at the park and not buy property?
That's been a consideration, but on the other hand, it's so far out of town that I don't think we're accessible to the people, and that's been my theory right from the start. We don't have a big area out there that's not just parking and used for parking. You would have it up on top of the hill. Well, I realize up on top of the hill you would, but down below there where you're wanting to put boats in or our stuff in.
We have a design schematic for office facility there. I'm not saying that's particularly what we're looking at, but by the time you purchase, you're looking at Holmes Brothers site. We looked at that 4 years ago, and they wanted $1.8 million. Now, by the time we purchase that, we could build a pretty nice office. So I don't know. That's all I'm just putting out there. You want to save tax dollars, but
Exactly. You just blew up the executive session, but thank you anyway.
I wasn't in executive session.
I know you weren't, so obviously somebody in executive session told you.
No, I didn't say that. I just said Holmes Brothers.
Well, thanks again.
That's one of the areas we're looking
Well, I didn't know that. We've been looked at before.
I'm sorry. Nevertheless, let's,
You blew it, I didn't, I wasn't there, I didn't know.
Anyway, moving on. Yeah, George?
I'm sorry, I got confused because your last directive to Mr. Carpenter was to go get pricing on the mobile homes. Then we went off on this other issue.
Yeah. I would still like to have a number out there and see what's available to us. I would like to. Yeah, it's ongoing. Let's find out what's available to us. If we can't find something in town that's here, we may have to order it. In that case, it might take 3-4 months. But let's find what's available to us. And I'm, with the cooperation of the board, I'd like to see us, we put 90,000 in there for the unit. I'd like to see us go out with the lid of it being at 80,000 and giving us 10,000 to put skirting on it, put a slab around it, get the electrical brought into it. So let's see what we can get for a top figure of 80,000. I'll put that in the form of a motion. We're not committing to buy anything, but let's see what is on the lots that would be available to us. All those in favor, say aye.
Discussion?
Discussion.
All right, by doing that, have you put back in the 80,000 or whatever it was, 85,000 for the water?
No, but we will discuss how much it takes when that happens. I don't think it's gonna take that much, Ron. I've ran water down the hills, over the top, down the thing, put valves in, I put electrical into it, and I spent $10,000 to $20,000 getting the job done. And I think that in-house we can do a lot of this stuff, and that's part of what I want our help to be looking at real shortly here.
So if we have nothing budgeted for it, then are we to move forward with it?
Yes.
And should we not
come back and ask us what they need to get it done, and then let's look at our local contractors and see, after we know what we got for a mobile home, how big it's gonna be. We'll have an idea how big a slab we're gonna have, how much power it's gonna take, and whether it's gonna be a propane or it's gonna be electrical or whatever. There's a few things that I'd like to see in a mobile home if we go out and buy it, and that would be probably be a good sense mobile home, one that is new and.
Okay, well, I'm against it, I think it's premature.
Okay.
at. I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions, may I?
Okay.
You, from our 2010 budget at $30,000 for insurance budgeted, it went to 40 in 2011. It remained at 40 for 2012. You've dropped it to 20, but you put your little star there, and we can go higher if we need to.
Right.
Bob Trask is our agent through Canfield, so we know what we had to do in the past. And you still think we put 20 in there is appropriate?
Well, I think that this year, when we're doing very low as far as exposures go that I can see, we should be looking at considerable less if insurance follows what our projects are. And I would like to see us go out to bid before we just turn in another $40,000, because I think that it needs to be looked at.
Okay, let's move on down. The PEBB retirement. I don't know that you have the authority to reconstruct the budget for that. It's a 132,997.02. And you dropped it down to 94,000. Chris?
If the,
We have a contract on that we need to comply with.
regardless of how many people we have hired or what positions, that not change?
Well, obviously it would change if payroll changed.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was figuring, payroll's gonna have to change some here. We cannot keep people hired year-round. Just because we hired them once doesn't mean that they're lifetime employees.
Well, let me ask you a question then. How do you propose to double the output if you're gonna cut back the employees that we have which there are only 6 in total anyway. How do you plan to do that?
Well, by the end of the year, if we get our mobile home hooked up, we should be able to double the amount of time if we keep the park open. If we get the permission to work in the dry, in 2 days, we'll pump out more mud than what you guys have done all year long. And a number of these other projects that are out here, I think that we can double into. So,
So you're going to do away with some of our employees, is that it?
some of our part-time help that we got down there, we probably won't be hiring this year.
We
If
have
if
some
get a park
full-time,
ranger.
we have some full-time help.
That's-
Right now, I'm talking about just
Yeah.
full-time.
Yeah,
Not
I
That
don't,
part-time.
includes full-time and part-time employees, doesn't it?
yeah, it's gonna have to cut back to these numbers real close. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen.
Okay, I would also like to see the Water Quality Institute reinstated at the $8,000.
I think $8,000 is a little bit rich.
It was 7,500 in 2010, it went to 8 in 2011. We did not buy shirts. Shirts were bought for the water quality kids by Trask Insurance. A lot of donations come in for the water quality group. We do put some money into it.
Did we
but,
buy them and then they
Excuse
reimbursed
me,
us?
I'm not finished.
Well,
I'm just trying to point out where the money went and how much money came from local citizens and businesses, which the teacher from the high school indicated a few minutes ago. And you kept saying, well, I don't think we should buy shirts anymore. We don't buy shirts. Trask Insurance buys the shirts. So,
show them to you?
sure.
Well, they're in here. I can take a little while to find them, but.
Well, show me, I mean, you can wait till after the meeting. But I think we should reinstate it at 8,000.
Why does it cost us $8,000?
For-
What's the expenses on it?
You have food, you have water, you
$8,000.
have equipment, you have the instructors.
I still haven't seen anywhere near $8,000 though.
You got 4 instructors,
Why do we
they're
need
$1,000 a piece.
Why do we need 4 instructors?
Because you have
There's
96
many
kids.
kids.
There's laws against how many people you have there.
Okay.
Those instructors have to be certified. You should know this as a
So
teacher.
you have those instructors are on the boat out there with those kids?
Yes.
Yes,
96
absolutely.
kids on that boat?
Not at once.
Oh, how do you
Thing
do
goes
that?
for
I've
3
never been
weeks.
involved in this, so I don't know.
And
how
so
that works.
why would you vote it down if you never know
Because
anything
when
about
I look
it?
at a $8,000 figure, doesn't make sense.
What's your budget for you? What's your
I
budget?
Okay.
don't touch my budget.
Let's stop this back and forth. When was the Water Institute? Do you know what time of the year it was?
That's in June. As this school gets out.
How about June 30th, 2010, Shirt Builders, Inc., advertising miscellaneous, $1,890.30, check number 11131. I don't know where that went to, but my guess is it probably went to the Water Institute. So,
Just bump track,
I'm not gonna
Trask
say that
Insurance,
that's positively where it went to, but nevertheless, there's $1,800 worth of shirts right there, and it could very well went to the help and everybody else here.
Well,
But I bet you some of them went to them.
all the shirts went to them. That doesn't necessarily, just because we write a check doesn't mean there's something
Well,
that's
that's
getting
not,
reimbursed.
that's what I was trying
And
to
I'm
ask.
not gonna guarantee you that it was. Some of these years they've been reimbursed, some haven't.
Yeah, well, I have no way of knowing whether it's got reimbursed. I see the check written out, and when I start seeing numbers like that, along with the other numbers and the instructors that's been taking place, we can try and do it on a minimum budget if we want. I can put half of it in there and.
Where do you get your instructors from?
From the school
The
district.
school district? So how many hours are those teachers involved?
Well, it depends which one you do.
Can you guess?
Each one's different. There's elementary, there's high school, there's people that arrange it. So they all put in different hours. They put in a lot of hours.
I'm just trying to
Which
figure out
class?
why.
I mean,
so-
there's,
I
some were
think
3
we're-
days, some were 2 days, some were.
I think we're beyond the scope of our project here. We are irrigation and rehabilitation. I don't know exactly where rehabilitation comes into training and teaching and a lot of this stuff, but
We are a state agency. We have a commitment for educating people what we're doing, and that is one avenue.
yeah, we need to keep them abreast of what we're doing. We don't need to go out here and take over the classrooms, but what's your feeling?
I think we spent too much money on it.
What's your feeling?
I think we need to reinstate it,
At what cost?
8,000.
8,000 too much?
This is gonna sound like a little stupid suggestion, but I'm thinking you're gonna save a lot of money on the Lakeview because you won't need to print it by the time you keep cutting programs like the Water Quality Institute. You'll keep picking away at it, and there won't be anything there at all. There's another expense, you can put that in the cut expense column.
Yeah, that might be a possibility. Any other item on the,
Are we gonna do it or not?
well, you wanna take one item at a time, or is that what,
No, I just pulled out a few, and I think he does it.
I would go to the halfway point, and, we start cutting back on somewhere here, but if you wanna get the donations out here, if you wanna get some of this stuff covered, by donations, that's fine, but I don't think it's our job to go out here and run classrooms, and, sorry, I just don't think we need that much expense, because if it was stopped at the $8,000, I'd say go for it, but it don't stop at the 8,000.
How do you know it doesn't
Because
stop?
I went down through the checkbook and I've seen a lot of items there, Ron. People that have been paid, instructors that have been paid, the whole works there. That's why I asked you this. I don't know if you've been down through the checkbook.
I have,
But,
I have.
okay, but all those checks add up after a while.
Yes, they do. But as long as it falls within the budget, then we're okay.
If you want to accept my 4,000, I would go ahead and say that we put 4,000 in there and let it happen. But if you don't want to,
All right, it's better than nothing.
okay? Amend the budget, if that's okay with the rest of you. Amend it to be a 4,000 figure put into the Water Institute, and okay, all three of us are in agreement on that. Further,
No,
I would just point out one thing, we really shouldn't be voting on line items.
I didn't want to until we got all said and done, but that's one item there that we can go ahead and hash over and get it done with.
Yeah, we've had the discussion on it, but we should.
Okay, all right.
Entire
Well, we'll make
budget.
the change when we get to the end. And a good point, though. I appreciate that.
now, the other question I have is you're approving a budget without any payroll figures here, so how can we do that?
Well, that's what's been happening for the last 3 years, Ron, and I've been wanting to know the same thing, how you guys have done it. That's why I wish that number was put in there so we know a better figure, but I haven't had time to wait for my period of time it takes me to get information to get that information.
Okay, I'm looking here at the 2011 budget. This is when I came on. We talk about staff, board, social security, Medicare, all this at 285, MLIRD overtime, operation, maintenance tech. There's numbers with the tech staff, temps, everything is outlined here. It's there.
Yeah.
Now, you say it wasn't. It is
Well,
there.
I don't see it. You got it anywhere there? I don't see it anywhere.
Well, look at this. You
Well,
read
I
it,
see,
can't
I
you?
see yours.
2 years ago, Ron.
2011, last year's budget.
He must have had his filled in and you didn't, so. Anyway, let's continue on here. I know what you're saying. It'd be nice to have the numbers in there, but they're not there, so they're not there.
But you asked for them, didn't you?
I
And
did.
weren't you told that they would be provided?
Well, what do you want me to do?
Look, this is a special meeting. Normally, staff is given a month to put together requests from the board. You brought this up a second time a week later. That's what I told you. It was out of order in the beginning. Give them time to put it together and bring it back in February.
They don't need a month to put them numbers in there. Ron, you know it as well as I do.
I know how long she took putting the minutes together. It took up most of her week.
That could very well be, and I'll bet you it's gonna take
And
a while again this month. but-
he got back from
Yeah.
his trip last night.
Yeah.
Now, how do you figure they're gonna do that? Give them a chance.
So how long you
Anything
thinking?
else?
Nope.
Okay.
How long you thinking, Ron?
Bottom line on the budget. We're showing 80 $250, excuse me. I would see that amended, where we add another 4,000 onto that number, which would be the Water Quality Institute, which would bring it up to 830,250, and it will take 4,000 off this over here, which would mean we're at 672.50. And I would move that that amended budget be approved.
I'll second that motion.
Huh?
That's it, all I've got to say.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay?
Okay. All right.
Discussion?
So can I, just a quick question, if it's all right. I answer to a board as well in my job. I'm just wondering, so when he reaches a projected amount now in this budget, say, for example, he starts, you know, Peterbilt twice, and then what happens after that? Does he come to the board then to have to get, I mean, is there a system in place?
Yes,
You
there
know,
is.
after that,
If
he'll
he's
come
gonna
to
run
for
over the
every.
budget item, we're hoping to have a budget that will show how much is being spent. If he runs over starting up the Peterbilt, he's got categories here that he may not be starting the rest of the equipment, and so he's got a category there that he can borrow out of, as far as the rest of that category. But when you start running past it, then you better come back to the board and let us know what's happening.
Actually, the authority is he cannot exceed any line item in the budget. If you want to group a series so that, you know, you can decide where to distribute that particular line item, they have to be grouped together. So once a line item is hit, it cannot be exceeded, the expenditure cannot be incurred until we've had a public meeting and amended budget.
So in other words, what you just said would get him in trouble.
No, I think that's what I just said.
What he said you
We've got-
can't exceed the
We've
line
got a
item
number
budget.
of items here.
He
We've got a number of items.
He just don't listen, Mick.
25 gallons of diesel and that Peterbilt puts him over is
30 gallons.
be done. I buy $40,000 worth of fuel a month for our fleet of trucks.
And I better don't sit in the yard.
That thing right there.
Okay,
He's done.
anyway, we're not gonna get into the budget again.
Wow.
If he,
But
if
policy
we're-
is what I was talking
if we're
about.
gonna have-
Policy.
If we're gonna have,
Does he know
where
what to
he's
do?
responsible for every line item, which is what Chris is saying
Yeah,
here,
what's this?
we need to know as we go along here exactly where we're at, and we will be trying to put in a different bookkeeping system so that we know where we're at as we go along.
Well, yeah, but you just voted into the budget, so what I'm hearing
Yeah.
is, we're there. You just boxed yourself into a corner.
No, I don't think we're necessarily there.
I think you just did.
Chris has just told me that we gotta worry about every line item here, and that,
Okay, well, I mean,
Yeah, then-
I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us as taxpayers in achieving what we need in the lake. Because I don't really care how it gets done, I just want it done the most efficiently. I don't care who does it.
Yeah.
I don't care,
Yeah,
you
let's
know, what
just,
happens, just as long as it
like Jim
happens.
said a little bit ago, let's just give us a chance to see if we can get it done, and see if we can get it done in a more efficient manner, and quit going back and bickering here, and
And again, I'm just clarifying something. So if he hits that budget number, does that mean he has to wait till the next budget meeting to bring it to you? So could projects be held up for weeks because of that?
Yes.
Month.
That'd be a
Well, I
month.
think that's kind of dangerous, isn't it?
well,
I'm trying to. How can the taxes be different? That's one of the things I was wondering. How can you take $500 off of assessed taxes?
Or utilities, last time I
Well,
checked,
I think
utilities don't
the
rise
district
prices.
Property taxes were
go back and look how
$3,000.
many you had last year, and then see how much of that was actually spent on taxes. I looked that up. I didn't just guess at that number. That's what they were last year, and I'm assuming that's what they'll be this year. If they're higher, then
But
we'll
no, the
have to
assessed
reduce.
values went up on everything around here, so I
Well-
don't know if you got your
Not my house.
latest one, but both of us went
Our
up.
Yeah, ours all went up.
Our properties went up from 2,200 to
19.2 to 50.
19,200
The
to
whole new
50.
I'm sorry, how much,
assessment, and then
50,000?
Yeah.
It went up
Yes,
to
50,000.
On 4
On
properties.
4
Yeah,
parcels.
well, he's off in his budget then too, right?
Yes, we didn't know they were gonna go up that
Yeah,
high.
that's what I'm bringing up right now,
Yeah.
is that it's.
If that doesn't cover it, bring it back and we'll make it right. Because some things he has no control over, some things he does have control over, and the things that he does have control over, we'd like to keep him within that range of what we can get done for him. And Julie?
I have a concern about this process because already under the other budget, we have spent money and made commitments. So how is this new one gonna come back to bite when we have to start paying those bills and we're over this? And then the other thing is, vendors, the county, whatever, they all have net terms for payment.
Right.
And if I've got to monitor every single invoice that comes in here,
Holy cow, yeah.
I'm probably gonna need more office staff right off the get-go.
There's Bill
full-time.
blows your $100 in overtime for everybody.
She's already spent
I've already spent that last week
I mean,
here.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't.
You're $100, now you gotta wait a month to vote on it,
Yeah.
to change the line item.
So that really means that we could be a month or 2 months out, depending on when things trickle in. I'm just,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Play with it for a while, see how it works.
there's no playing with it, it's gonna be real.
Well, I mean, if we see an area that is hitting us and hitting us every month, then we may need to take a look at it and we'll maybe put some more items in there. But let's give it a try before we get too excited about it. Let's give it a try. And Ron?
I want the record to reflect the fact that Kurt cannot be held responsible for the commitments that have been made under our original budget should we exceed the allowable amount with this new budget. And that's what Julie just alluded to. He can't be held responsible.
He can't go all year saying I can go on my old budget because.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
He can't be held responsible for what's happened up until
this point here.
That's right.
Agreeable, yeah. And I don't know how much we've got carried over from last year. That number I haven't seen yet. Last year, I think it was $30,000, $40,000. That would help. If that same amount was carried forward this year, that would help make up some of the items that we haven't got budgeted, but could actually help make some of the payments. George?
Will the manager be given any direction by the board what his priorities are and what he should attack on that new budget?
Well,
Or is he just gonna get her in?
well, I think you're gonna find that the board and the management are gonna be working a lot closer than they have in the past. We don't wanna micromanage, but on the other hand, I think that we need to work closer with Kurt and staff as far as that goes. And
Now, I
hope
have
that-
to interject right there, because in the last meeting, you said you were going to micromanage this whole organization. That was your exact words, and a person in the audience stated it, say that again, and you said it again. I plan on micromanaging this organization.
That's right.
Actually, it's in video.
It's in
I don't know,
video.
recap.
I'll put it on
saying is
YouTube
what-
if you want. I mean, it's there.
We are going to be working a lot closer with management.
Okay, but working closely with them and micromanaging them,
Well,
worlds apart.
I think I said I didn't like the word micromanagement. If you
No,
remember.
I got,
Well,
It's in the
it
minutes,
doesn't make any
probably.
sense to sit here and argue with the crew that I've been arguing with all night here on every other.
I'm not arguing with it, because I don't care
But
who does this, I don't care if we
But I'm
import
saying-
people to do it, just want it done.
Yeah, and we will be working a lot closer with Kurt to try and avoid some of the things that have happened. And,
What's happened?
okay, you brought it up, let's go for it.
Is this on the agenda?
Yes, it is.
Where?
Right here. We have been going over the mission statement. We went through the budget. Okay. I'm asking that Kurt write a short report on each one of these incidences. Number one, pump station freezing up last winter.
It's already been reported.
Okay, I'm asking that you write a report to the board and give it to us in short terms. Tell us exactly how it happened, what took place, and let us know what is happening so that it won't happen again. Okay?
So is the board directing me to do this?
No, he is.
I'm putting these numbers out here, we will be voting on it, whether we wanna do it or not. But I gotta present it first, they asked for me to present it. So, the first one is the pump station freezing, the second one is the dredge sinking. I'd like to have a report on that.
It's already been, yeah.
It's, I want it in his words, reporting back to here, so we make sure this never happens again.
Well, the dredge isn't going back in the water, so.
Yes, it is, eventually.
Okay, well, that's not what I understood. I heard it staying out, and then we were looking at maybe getting rid of it.
I think if you had listened to my mission
Okay,
there,
all right, fair enough.
it's in there.
I thought we were
We'll
gonna.
be looking at putting the dredge back in and sinking of the dredge. The dredge being left close to 200 feet from the crane being able to pick it up. I'd like to have you report on that.
So dredge removal.
The dredge removal, give us a report on what happened there. I'd like to have you give us a report on Conley Park. We had a person drowned down there. I'm not sure exactly whether he was diving off of a rock, whether, I see a big slab out there. I don't know if he was diving off that slab or what happened. But I see two big rocks right at the bottom of that slab, and if that is the case where he actually dove off of and hit those rocks, I want to make sure that never happens again.
Chris,
There is no report.
whoa, that's my ability to say, that's on video, let's be.
I don't care, I don't care. I want to make sure it never happens again, is what I'm saying.
We're trying
I-
No, I understand, but there's certain.
Okay,
There's
Got an
signs
attorney,
on
right?
Eisner Kurt that says
there's a lot, there's a lot of
swimming's your own risk,
liability.
there's no lifeguards on duty.
That's right, I know, but let's make sure it never happens again, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
I would agree with you. I mean, that's a horrible tragedy.
It was a tragedy.
But is it
I'm not-
responsibility of
The
irrigation?
thing is, without doing
That's
any
not-
kind
that's
of
not-
review on a
that's not-
thing, is there any way we can make it better without talking about it?
I want him, I mean, I'm sorry that it's being televised, I'm sorry that it's going out here and we're doing it right in front of everybody here, but, you wanted to know, so I'm giving Kurt the numbers and the stuff to go with here. Tell us where he dove off of, if he dove, what he hit, do we need to possibly put signs up, is there rocks there that he hit? Let's take a look at it, that's all I'm saying, give us a report. I don't want it to ever happen again. We've had a report of employees down there at the Conley Park, fishing on company time, swirling with the four-wheeler and actually running over a woman's dog. So if you check in on it, see if it's true or not, I'd like that reported back to us. We got one other thing here, using the MLIRD office for campaign purposes. Actually phoning during the day and using your name during that period of time. So let me know if it's true or not true, but I'm assuming using the MLIRD office for campaign purposes. Phoning during the daytime using, the person's name was Carpenter, that was actually said that they were calling and soliciting votes. Another thing is letting the dredge pump freeze up this December. We thought after last year, letting the other pump freeze up, that leaving water in the pump and letting it freeze up. What do you mean, no? It was,
Never froze up. I don't know what you're talking about.
it was clear full of ice when they took it over to the machine
It's
shop.
getting rebuilt.
Huh?
It's getting rebuilt.
Yeah, but it's clear full of ice and so froze up so damn tight they had to thaw it out slow to keep it. And the internal parts of it are shoved so tight that they're probably gonna have to take a cutting torch to cut them apart. They're jammed in so tight. Just to make a report on it, Kurt. That's all I asked for.
Keep digging.
Well, I'm not digging it. This is
Mr. Hansen.
pretty much out in the open there.
This is kind of a full-scale witch hunt now.
Yeah, it is a full-scale witch hunt.
Well, you asked,
No.
Yeah, well,
This is
not
way
been
past-
that. That's all it came down to.
This has come way past.
This is what I
protocol or decorum or.
This is
This
past what you
is,
should
this
be
is what I
doing.
don't want to have happen again, so.
I think you're gonna
No,
have to
you
keep
don't want a
happening.
gravel pit not moved again.
Are you gonna approve the overtime for Mr. Carpenter to do all this work?
Or
on
attorney
his
fees.
regular,
I've talked to the Fire chief out of Grant County 5. He is all in favor of sharing a boat with us, and he's gonna take it to the board, and if we can get it done, he doesn't want any compensation for it either direction, and so it might be something that we can share as 2 agencies and end up with us having a boat that has got power enough to push a pretty good load.
That's a great idea. I just wonder what the insurance and the liabilities and stuff are on doing that.
I don't think it'd be any worse than it would be if you bought the
Well, I
boat.
mean, I can sit here and say, I think it'd be way worse. We're both at the same spot. I need solid numbers.
Okay.
What's the liability of sharing something like that and the insurance costs? And it might not be worth it.
I would like to ask the board to okay going out and hiring an engineering firm to measure the size of the pile we got. I think we talked about it earlier in the meeting here. And did we actually vote on that really or not? Do you? I got that covered. I got it in the back here and it got moved ahead somehow. But I don't know if we actually, Chris, did you happen to know if we approved that? Anyway.
I don't recall a vote being on.
Yeah, I don't know what we did either. If we did, we can do it twice. But I'd like to hire Columbia Northwest Engineering to go out and do a cross-section and do a measurement of the pile that we got there, so we know exactly when we go to the city and when we go to the other people, talking about how much we've accomplished this year, that we're not guessing, we got a number to work with. And
I might recommend a limit on what we're, or at least some disclosure what we're spending, as to whether we need to go to small works on something like this.
yeah, he was talking probably be somewhere around 200. I'd say put a $300 limit on it and call it good at that.
Is this,
Is this voted on as a line item?
well, no, I was just gonna ask you, is this somebody that you know? I mean,
I see him drive by with the sign on his door, and so I called him today and asked him, this is something he might want to do or not do, and he said he could probably get the job done.
has
So-
this been done though? This was done by, didn't we already pay to have an engineering firm do this?
No,
No, okay, all right. I thought we had, but.
no.
We've surveyed the lake of what we've removed, yes.
I think you've used, the way, I talked to a guy named Dan there, and I think he's done engineering for you in the past.
I know Dan.
Okay, so
That's fair.
I think he did some engineering on the railroad crossing there, so he knows about where it's at and everything, and I talked to him as far as price goes, and he said it probably would be somewhere around 200, but like I say, make it safe, and he hadn't seen the pile yet. He went to the pile today and got chased off because they didn't want him going through the yard there without being identified, so I wasn't expecting him to go down and look at it already. He just went down to look at it and got right off. So I'll make sure that we get clearances to get him in there.
Well, run off or wasn't allowed to come on the property, which, because of what happened to the vote, I think that's good. So, that we don't allow people to show up and.
Yeah. All those in favor of hiring an engineer to do the pile, say aye. Passes. Yes.
Do you have much farther to go?
We want to have a quick break here.
Yeah, my shoulders are
Okay,
cramped up.
all right, good. Let's take the 5-minute break. 5-minute break, and we'll be right back here again, and then we don't have that much more to cover, so I think that we should be able to wrap it up in probably half an hour.
We're going to take a 5-minute break here. We will turn down the audio and keep the video going, but we'll be right back in about 5
Are we
minutes.
able to go back to the bathroom now?
Finish permit and how they're worded and what agencies have actually issued them. Is that something you can get by the end of the week for me?
I don't know, I got a lot to do here.
You wanna get down there and put a priority on stuff?
I'd like to have it by Friday if at all possible. By Friday afternoon. I can see where we had a contract with 4Bs for our warehouse out there. And that
Still do,
permit,
yes.
that permit came up on the end of December. So far, we've been renewing that permit every 2 years. And for some reason, this time you decided that you wanted to go for 6 years. I don't know if you had a reason for that.
5 years, copy the same as this.
The what?
It's the same as the contract for this office. It's the same years.
I didn't know if the board had given you authority to go that much beyond what they've normally done or not, but I think that the contract allows us. And Chris, you might want to double check on this for us, that we can get out of it in 60 days as we go along there. But I think that if anything materializes of what we're thinking about here, that well before 6 years is up, we'll be looking at trying to get out of that contract. And I would like to, if it looks like we can get out on a 60-day notice, I would like to send a notice to them.
Hey, you called this the 4B's contract?
The 4B's contract, which is their shop, which is $1,500 a month, $18,000 a year. And it's been being renewed every 2 years, and for, like I say, this time all of a sudden it was renewed. Looks like for a 6-year period. 5 year, you think? I'm not sure.
It follows the same.
I thought it was 1916. What?
The reason being was to follow the same as with this office.
Yeah, well, I think we need to send a notice to them, if we can get out of it, stating that we probably will not be using it for the full period of time, so that they don't expect us to necessarily, and that we will be more than happy to give them the required amount of time to get out of it. But I think just some letter there stating that they're not expecting us to keep this thing going for that much longer, because I see no reason that we can't be out of that thing in a year or two.
Are you wanting Kurt to draft that before I come back with an opinion?
Well, if you can come back with an opinion, give it to Kurt, and then let him go ahead and put a letter together, if that's the case, stating that we may not be using all 6 years, and so they know that.
Don't blank out.
Yeah, just so that they know. I talked to Tom Jones, the sheriff, about putting buoys in the lake, and he said, yeah, he's heard also that that there's a liability when you put buoys out there, but he said they have put buoys out on the south end of the lake, and he says, quite frankly, he doesn't see where there's going to be any more of a liability by putting buoys on rocks than there would be out there in the open, but he's going to check with the attorney and check with his boat people. He said if it's possible, we'll work jointly with the sheriff's department and see if we can start marking some of these rocks and boulders and obstacles that are out here, if he comes back with a favorable report. And so he's going to get back to me and let me know. I've got to know the depths when we get into the sandbar out there, when we go talking to the city and everybody else about going out here and taking bigger equipment. Kurt, I don't know if you've got any kind of probes that have been done out there as far as how deep the rocks are below the sand layer, below the clay layer, or any, whether test holes have been dug out there on that, pretty much that whole area or not. Is this something that you've got records of or not, or is it?
There's some minor probing that went on, but that doesn't specify whether it's rock or whatever. I mean, where they go till they hit hard stuff. There's no test holes.
Yeah. How many of those holes were there punched out there?
I can't recall.
Do you even have a record of them as far as?
Yeah, it'd be back in the files, maybe 6, not very many.
Okay, not very many then. So what I'd like to do, and I'm asking for maybe a couple of your guys to give me a hand, is go out and we'll do a grid out there and lay out every couple hundred feet or so. It's not gonna be something that's gonna take a lot of time, probably one afternoon or maybe one day. We'll go out and lay a grid, laying out every 200 foot out across there, something that we can go ahead and run a probe down. I've got a probe that we can drive in and drive it back out again, and but I need somebody that's got some good arms and shoulders that can take the hammer and abuse, and be willing to go out there and help for a day or so, and we'll get a good grid on that thing and find out where our rocks are at, how deep we can go before we hit rock, and just basically make a pretty good map out there. And was hoping maybe do it the next day or two here, but it sounds like we've got a storm coming in. You probably got your men tied up, and so let's look at down the road a couple weeks or whatever. If we get some decent weather, my time's pretty much open, and I'd be willing to make it happen whenever we can here. But keep that in mind. If you'll get back to me on it, I would love to spend a day out there and just go out there and probe that thing and just see how much depth we got before we start getting into rocks. And I think we can probably tell the difference from rocks to clay to sand with this machine that I got here. So if you'd work with me on that, that would be great. Any other business? Ron?
I have a comment,
Okay.
and it is this. He purported to want to follow Robert's Rules of Order in conducting these meetings. Well, Mike, I think you have a very highly elevated opinion of yourself sitting in that position as chair. You actually have no more authority than Rich or I do. You're a director. That's what the populace and the ratepayers elected you to do. You were elected to assume the position of chairman simply to conduct the meetings.
Right.
You act like you've been hired as the CEO of a corporation, the way you talk about doing this and doing that, and I want this done and I want that done, and that is not appropriate. So I would like for you to take some time and read that book, Robert's Rules, that you were given at the first meeting.
I asked Kurt to do this one job right here on my own, and I'm willing to go out there on my own and do it. And
I'm talking about your conduct over these first two meetings.
Ron, my conduct is partly because of your conduct, and I think your conduct back before was probably part of my conduct. It was part of your blame there. So I think you were having to keep the crowd to where they couldn't say one word.
You know as well as I do that was because of you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's behind us. I'm opening it up and letting everybody talk, and maybe that's not the right thing to be doing here either. Maybe I should be shutting everybody off and not calling on anybody and keeping it locked down pretty much the way you had it locked down. But I don't go away feeling good at the end of a meeting, and I haven't had a chance to at least express my view. I have a problem with being told to keep quiet, and then it goes, and you haven't had a chance to say one word about it. When I've had a chance to say a word about it, it goes the other way. I'll walk away, not maybe happy, but at least I'm not disgruntled. And I think that by letting everybody talk, maybe it takes more time, and we're running late here every meeting here, and I'm hoping that this won't continually keep happening here, running this late. But there is a lot of changes that are being made, and I realize what you're saying, that I'm probably talking a lot more and saying I when I should say we. But on the other hand, I think that I try and, by the time we get to the point of making a motion, that I try and include this as much as I can. So I'm sorry you feel that way.
Well, you kept talking about letting the audience speak. I didn't speak of that at all. I talked about your conduct.
Yeah.
You act like you're in charge and running this whole thing.
Well, I run the meeting, but on the other hand, as far as trying to get anything incorporated here, I think we've been pretty good about trying to make motions and keeping it to a vote. And I know you don't really care for the way the vote comes out, but on the other hand, 2 months ago, Rich didn't care for the way the vote was coming out either, and you didn't give a damn about it.
Read your Roberts and conduct the meeting accordingly. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment on the same issue. I mean, I think audiences enjoying getting to talk. I mean, in days past, when you were sitting in meetings and you were conducting the meeting, basically they were told to bring it up at the next meeting, and by the time they were so pissed off, they left and they didn't come back. And now we're inviting them to give an opinion. And so in my thinking, it speeds up the process, because now we don't have to wait a month. We'll have instant answers. We have all these resources out here that we can deal with, And maybe they're not the right resources, but it gives us an opinion to where us three can sit here and weigh each one of these opinions and say, you know, that makes sense, or, you know, maybe not. So I think having the audience participate is a really good thing.
You know what? I didn't say anything about the audience participating. That had nothing to do with my comments
I
about the way he
understand that.
conducts the meeting. So why you bring that up is
But because
beyond
to
me.
because I was one of those people sitting out there, only I was sitting here and being told to shut up. So now I actually get to talk.
I just want to say that it's very nice to be able to give your opinion, and I have a lot of them, but I don't feel like you guys hear them.
Okay.
And when Mrs. Odegaard spoke, I felt Mr. Archer had made his mind up and he didn't really care what she had to say about anything. And so it's different speaking your mind or giving your opinion, and it's different being heard, and I don't feel that, no, it's not, I don't feel anything. I don't believe that
Do
you're
you appreciate
hearing.
being able to talk?
But I
a number
like to
of
be
your times?
heard, and I don't feel you guys are hearing
Well, we
us.
obviously did hear it because we didn't shut it off, we actually compromised. So we did listen to what Mr. Odegaard said and what everyone else said, and we made a compromise.
Yeah,
So that wouldn't have happened in the past.
I'm not saying we're gonna bend on every item out there, but at least we're listening to you, and then some items, we're hearing you. Yeah, she had her hand up.
I'm on an HOA board, and I really appreciate it when we stick to the agenda, because you get through the thing, and I love the fact that there's discussion, don't get me wrong, I really appreciate that too. But I like a start and a stop point to a meeting. I like knowing when I go in, this, and this is going to be.
Let me apologize a little bit for the way everything's going here right now, because of the fact that we've got a meeting that's being continued, and it's what happened here is the fact that we don't have a new agenda, we got a continuation of the last agenda. And so we're not really starting a new meeting each time, and come February, then maybe we'll have a set agenda that you can look at and follow down through it, and that's our hopes that by that time, things will slow down enough that we can actually start to do it.
I would appreciate, I know other people would appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I think most of the crowd is happy to be able to express their views, and like I say, we don't always totally agree with you or one way or the other, but at least we're listening to you and we hear you.
And I, you know, for the record, I never felt that we were discounted before. I never felt that.
Yeah.
And Rich,
Well-
nobody ever told you to shut up. We've been to a lot of meetings. They discussed things with you, and you had and you had a lot of times, I thought what you said added to the discussion. So I mean, I hope you don't feel that that was a waste of your time this past year.
I've had a tough time the last couple of years. And I'm actually enjoying it, coming to meetings now and having discussions. I mean, I always felt it was directed by the board here, and the people out here really didn't have much control over it. They were just here to kind of observe. And now I'm thinking you guys are involved.
Okay,
I felt involved before, but. Yeah, sorry.
let's cut it real short here, because everybody's trying to get out.
You know, I've been coming to these meetings for a couple of years, ever since Rich got nominated to the board here, or elected into the board. And if my memory sort of serves me correctly, last year when the budget was being voted on, Rich thought it was a good idea and voted yes on all the things that came up. Now this year, you're not. I was wondering if you could tell me what's changed for you. Last year, you voted for the budget that we have, and now you want to go for a new budget that is questionable in my mind. What's changed your mind?
The fact that now I've actually seen some of the checks that have been written, and it's making me question why, and this kind of thing, you know. Before, I was actually just kind of given the budget and say, this is what we need to spend it on, and I was never involved in signing the checks. I might have signed 15 checks all year long, and I know it's been zillions of them. It's not a zillion, but a lot. And so I haven't seen the checks. You know, basically it's been Ron signing them, and Mr. Benson. I've just kind of showed up, and if they had a few here at the end of the meeting, I might got signed, but I never was involved in that part of it. And so now, and I've always kind of wanted to see that, I've asked for it, to see a statement every month, so I can know where we're spending our money. I've never gotten it. We're gonna get it now.
Well, but my question is
Excuse me, it's
if
been
you,
in your minutes. The bank reconciliation has been in your board
I don't
packet every meeting.
And it doesn't
And
show a
it's-
breakdown of the checks. It just shows the
It's a
line item.
reconciliation.
Okay, it's not every check.
but if you disagreed with the budget that was proposed for last year, and I sat right here and watched you approve it, why didn't you disagree? You disapproved it.
If you disagree that strongly,
I understand
do
that.
you have an opinion, just your opinion, without somebody else being involved?
Okay,
It's
you know-
your opinion, base it on what you know to be a fact, not what somebody else tells you.
I know it's
If
correct,
you
sir.
disagreed with that, from now on, disagree, don't go along with it, because now I don't know where you stand.
I understand. But you gotta remember, every time I needed information, I had to come down and sign a form, just like you would, and wait my 5 days to get that. Is it correct, right, Bill? I should be able to come in at any time, open the checkbook and look.
So what you're saying to me is that Julie and Kurt were eliminating you from the process? Is that what you're saying?
They weren't eliminating me, they weren't involved in me either.
Then why would you agree to something that you didn't
Yeah,
agree with?
we're getting way sidetracked here again, and this is what I want to prevent. I'd like to go ahead and recess this meeting for another week.
Oh.
Hey, you don't have to come. But we've got a lot of answers that need to be brought back to us, and I'd like to see us recess this for 1 week. And I know, Chris, you're probably...
I won't be here.
You won't be here, but that's fine. We just got to get a few answers here that we need to get answered. Reports coming back to us, and at that point in time, we'll probably have a fairly short meeting and get a few answers made, and get two people. I'm trying to get out of here. Sandy, go ahead, but keep it
Well,
short.
it's just a quick question. Karen, did you say last week that your son works for Dental Park?
He just started working at the park.
When did he start?
This beginning of the summer, and I would like to say that he was there at 4:30 every morning opening those gates. So if Fisherman was telling you those weren't open, he was lying.
What was his name?
Who?
Your son?
His name is Brent.
Brent Stahl?
No. Why do you want to know?
Well, no reason, just asking.
Just a point, because we want to be able to, we keep having episodes of Bonanza kick in about halfway through these broadcasts. Is this really going to be, what you think, an hour and a half meeting, or do you have as many items as you're going to cover this time?
No, we're getting the items pretty well down, and I think we can probably figure that we'll probably have a 2-hour meeting next time. That would be about it.
2 hours?
Yeah. If you want to try and put it to a number, that'd be close.
Excuse me. His name, excuse me.
No other business, then we'll adjourn for 1 week. Not adjourn, we will recess for 1 week.